20 cars entered in Top Fuel, 16 qualified. Let's see who races who. Now notice that it's dominated by qualifying, that is, by the rookie Gary Scelzi in the Alan Johnson family car at 4.62. He has top speed as well at 3:14. The final qualifier, number 16, who races Gary Scelzi, that was Spike Gore making his first ever national event appearance.
Well, I'm glad you were looking for it. You got it. How'd you like to be Shelly Anderson next round? She runs Amato. She ran 4:61, and she doesn't get lane choice. Gary Scelzi, #1 qualifier, a guy that has always done well here at this racetrack. He's got to be really pumped about driving this car and being #1.
It's not easy. I woke up at 3:30 this morning and tossing and turning, and then I got up and went and took a walk and got back up and had breakfast and came out to the track. Everything is a little nerve-wracking until you get in the car, and then when you get in the car, it's not too bad to focus everything out. You know, just remember what you're there for.
Hey, KC, this is interesting. Scelzi's got lane choice. He's taken the right side of the track. Before Amato had lane choice, he took the other lane.
Well, I think Alan Johnson looked at the lanes and said, I'm not going to take a chance like Joe Amato did. I know my car will go down that right lane. Nobody's had any problems in the right lane, but I've seen tire smoke out of the left lane. Why risk it? I've got the fastest car in the country. Let's see if we can't run faster than that 458.
He's taking on Spike Gore and Tommy Greer Jr. Tommy's dad joined up with Prudhomme, the Greer Black and Prudhomme machine. Spike Gore's car tuned by Wayne Dupuis. They think they can take out the Team Winston car. And they might be right. No, it gives up the ghost right at the quarter-mile mark. Scelzi drives out of his second big wheel stand of the weekend, brought it back down to earth, and for a while, Team Winston was there for the taking. Scelzi, 482, 270 miles an hour, takes out Spike Gore's 517. Scelzi and Team Winston strolling into round number 2. Boy, just looks so different without that mustache. All right, Team Winston, near lane. Connie Coletta, far lane. Team Winston's been in that 460 range. Watch that baby fly. Hello, great run. Scelzi, 64. Connie, 68, and he's flying home by now. Kristen Howell and Kenny Bernstein continue this march in round number 2. But take a look at that one again on replay. Mixing up the cylinders a little bit leads you to believe there's more in that Team Winston.
The second semifinal race in Top Fuel stood to be an incredible race. We had Corey Mack in the McDonald car up against Gary Scelzi in the Winston dragster. Both of these cars have been running great all weekend long. Nobody knew who was going to win this race. Let's see that semifinal race and see who was going to go into the final round to match up with Joe Amato.
Okay, folks, so I have an advantage. I've seen this before, but watch this drag race. A picture is worth 1,000 words. Hang on. Whoa, Corey Mack almost went over. And Gary Scelzi gets the win at a 469, 306 miles an hour. Team Winston's in the final and in the pit with KC Spurlock.
Gary, you had a great semifinal round. First professional race in Top Fuel, your #1 qualifier. You're going to the finals up against a great opponent. You need a little advice from somebody who's been there before, or do you think you can handle this one on your own?
I'll take all the help I can get, Casey. Can you give me a little advice? I'm so excited. I mean, who would have thought that this would have happened on the first weekend out, you know, with a Top Fuel team like this? It's outstanding.
I think Gary Scelzi is going to do just fine in this sport. Let's go over to Steve Evans to talk to Joe Amato.
To be some fun, Casey.
This may be the toughest race of the day to call. We know that both of these teams are making more horsepower than any other team in the Top Fuel pit area. But with the track cooling down, the track could play a major factor in this. Both of these cars could smoke the tires. If that happens, it could be a driver's race. The nod would have to go to Amato.
Melancholy moment this must be for Alan Johnson. Let's not forget, a year ago today at this exact hour, he was in this same position with his brother Blaine Johnson at the wheel, who was fatally injured at the U.S. Nationals last year. Alan's got to be thinking, oh my, what if, what if? But Gary Scelzi is becoming a surrogate son to Ezra and a stepbrother to Alan Johnson.
That kind of said it all. That is Alan Johnson. Now, Gary Scelzi has been a great driver. He won 4 races on the points trail last year in the alcohol category. He won right here at this racetrack back in 1986, winning in the alcohol dragster category. He will have his hands full right here with the consummate champion in Top Fuel, Joe Amato. About that, it wasn't pretty, but Gary Scelzi gets the win at 771, 231 miles an hour. See, hit that baby right on the head. Conditions change. You try to overpower it, you could go up in smoke, and if it's a driver's race, it should be Joe Amato. Okay, see, you were going so good right up to that point. On again, off again. Gary Scelzi gets the win, and watch both drivers right out of the gate strike the tires almost immediately. Amato already up in smoke in the far lane. Scelzi smokes him here in the Team Winston car, and he gets that puppy sideways. Wow. Looked like the Atlanta final last year with Larry Dixon and Mike Dunn and Gary Scelzi. I think I can. Man, Amato hopped that right up on the wheel. That's why he smoked his. Look at Scelzi. How about that? Gary Scelzi on the throttle again and gets his first ever win in Top Fuel. Steve?
Gary Scelzi, rookie, where did you ever learn to pedal a car like that?
I don't know. I kept waiting for him to come by me, and I mean, it blew the tires off so hard I couldn't believe it.
You had to be wondering if the engine was going to stand that kind of abuse.
I didn't think so. I mean, I just kept hitting and kept going. I never seen him. I just kept hitting. I thought I was John Forrest out there.
Those cars get a little hard to control when you're trying to do that, rocking up and back.
I needed a Mack truck steering wheel in there to drive it, but we didn't hit anything, and I think the wind light came on. That's why you're here, huh?
And you're looking at a superstar of the future. And here is Joe Amato. Oh, man, that was wild.
Yeah, Steve. Yeah, I saw him. I smoked the tires the minute I stepped on it, and I tried to get back on it. My blower belt came off because it must have been hydraulic or something when I tried to get back on it. And I saw him out there, and he's doubling. I'm saying, maybe you'll go over the center line or do something like, you know, I need God help, you know. But
I was trying.
You know, you did a good job, and you're going to be tough all year. And Alan Johnson and the boys. But I can only say Jimmy Proctor ran 3 450s. We kept the national record. I mean, 456. I'm impressed. We would love to win the race.
You were the man.
We would love to win the race, but I guess the track might have cooled off a little too much. We didn't really have it hopped up at all, but what can you say? You know, for all our sponsors and all, we love you, and you guys did a good job.
I don't have to fill when I got Joe Amato, Bob.
Must have been that advice that Scelzi got from Spurlock down there after the semifinals. Well, Gary Scelzi now in the catbird seat. Joe Amato, KB, Corey Mack, and Shelley, and a lot of these drivers like Scelzi out of the alcohol ranks.
And Gary Scelzi has demonstrated that he has all the driving skills and more needed to keep the Johnson family on its winning ways. But look also, it was a rather strange qualifying effort for Gary Scelzi and the Johnson family. They had a lot of engine problems, but they did qualify well. His opponent, the close call phone card machine of Jim Head, gave Gary Scelzi and the Team Winston entry a big race. 477 the winning time for Scelzi, losing 481 for Jim Head.
Gary, what's with the wheel stands? Again?
Boy, I don't know, but I wasn't pedaling at that time. It just got up there high, and it stayed there. And hey, we rode it out. We won the round. That's all that matters.
Pair in round number 2. Here's Alan Johnson and crew starting up the engine in the Team Winston machine, driven by Gary Scelzi. His opponent is Shelly Anderson. Shelly Anderson has top speed of the meet at over 315 miles an hour, set in qualifying. Gary Scelzi sits atop the Winston points ladder by only 2 points. Of course, Scelzi won at Pomona. Joe Amato was runner-up. They're followed by Bernstein, McLenathan, and this young lady, Shelly Anderson, at the wheel of her Western Auto Parts America car. She has had a good outing here. As a result of her fine qualifying time, she started the program in the number 3 spot, defeated Gavin Grubnick in round number 1. Her opponent, Gary Scelzi, he was a little troubled in qualifying, only number 6 at a 471. but was able to defeat Jim Head in the first round. That is Alan Johnson. The Johnson family owns this car. Alan is the crew chief. Gary moved into the cockpit out of the alcohol dragster and funny car ranks after the tragic loss of Blaine Johnson in that qualifying accident at Indy at the U.S. Nationals last season. From the onboard camera with Shelly Anderson, you saw Gary Scelzi stick the nose of the Team Winston car out ahead and take the win. He's getting with the program, advances now into the Final Four and continues to tally up those Winston points.
Well, Gary, when you get this car to stop doing wheel stands, it'll run 461 at 313.
Oh, my God, what a deal. Man, I'll tell you what, I was a nervous wreck up there. Shelly went and turned the top light out. Oh, man, I better hurry. I don't want to hang her out. Open both pumps up. And I think I was on time, but what a ride, man. Finally got a good run.
But before we get to Bernstein, let's take a look at the other pair. It is Mike Dunn against Gary Scelzi. Dunn at the wheel of Darrell Gwynn's Mopar machine is challenging the Team Winston car of Scelzi and Alan Johnson, the car owner and tuner. You all know by now the tragic story of the death of Blaine Johnson at the U.S. Nationals at Indianapolis over Labor Day weekend a year ago. At the conclusion of the season, the Johnson family announced that they were going to continue in this sport and that Gary Scelzi would be their driver of choice here in 1997. That choice has already paid off with a win at Pomona. Kristen?
Yeah, Gary's doing a spectacular job. You know, I mean, it's got to be hard for someone with that amount of pressure to perform as well as he does, but he's doing amazing.
Talk about pressure. How do you cope with it?
Well, you know, I mean, I have school and the media and the racing, so it's kind of hard, but, you know, with people helping me out, we get by just fine.
How are your grades?
They're above average.
All right. Keep them there, and then your daddy will let you keep driving the car, right?
Yep.
Here is round number 3, the semifinals. Dunn smoked the tires, and Gary Scelzi took the win.
Gary Scelzi, 2 races into the career, going to the second final round.
My God, I'll tell you what. Mike Dunn, Darrell Gwynn, and all those people over there are the greatest people in drag racing. Mike Dunn's been my hero for a long time. I was more nervous racing him than anybody else, let me tell you, because
This baby slowed down. You could be in trouble.
well, I don't care about that. I'm going to the final. We'll work on it.
Yeah, here's that other red car in the final. Gary, Kenny Bernstein says, well, maybe the lane choice isn't so critical here and late in the day. What's your call?
No, I believe it. The track is really good. The sun's going down. The air's getting cool. It's going to be exciting.
The last thing in the world that you want is another final round like Pomona when you got to pedal the heck out of the car. What's the prospect?
Well, we're looking to run 61 or 62. We've got her on max cackle, which is a saying that Alan came up with.
There are the players. Back to you, Mac.
Max cackle. Well, you got to describe it somehow when you pour everything you got in the way of nitromethane into it. Head-to-head comparison here in 1997. Gary Scelzi winning over Kenny Bernstein. 1-zip. Kristen Powell, who do you pick?
Oh, I don't pick anyone, but
Oh, come
all I know
on.
is that it's Kenny Bernstein's consistency against Gary Scelzi's speed, so it's going to be a good race.
All right, it's going to be looking good. We'll be back with the finals.
That's got to be a scary race for him. You know, he's a rookie. It's new for him, but he is in an amazing car, so this is going to be a great race.
Dale Armstrong is regarded as one of the true geniuses in the role of a crew chief. He has predicted it's going to take a 6-0 or a 461 to win this race. Would you concur with that?
Oh, yeah, Bernstein's been running very consistent 60s. Scelzi's been up in the 70s, so, you know, he might be a little nervous, so here we go.
Gary Scelzi in the Team Winston machine against this man, Kenny Bernstein. Bernstein is the defending champion. I noted a bit ago when we recapped what happened here 1 year ago that it was a 4.70. Every year things just seem to get quicker. You ran 4.64 at Pomona. You did not qualify here. That had to be a real disappointment for you, Kristen Powell.
Yeah, it was. You know, we've been trying really hard. To come out and not qualify is a real bummer, but, you know, we were happy with our 64.
Well, in memory of Blaine Johnson, that, of course, is on the side of the cars of the Johnson family. Kenny Bernstein, at the conclusion of the season,
gave the Winston Championship trophy in an emotional moment to the Johnson family. But right now, both drivers, both crew chiefs, both teams concentrating on one thing, and that is winning here at Phoenix. Doubt from the moment they hit the throttle, it was Gary Scelzi with a big advantage at the starting line and a performance advantage as well. 462 at 305, 463 at 315 miles an hour for Bernstein. The Bud King gave it everything he could to try to catch him, but it was over when they left the starting line. Let's go to the starting line. Here's Bill.
Wow. I am loving this as much as you almost. A 462. Did you ever think that this weekend would end like this?
Well, you know, you always hope that this kind of things happens, but the troubles we had this weekend, we weren't really sure. But, you know, we put a couple of good runs on the board today, and that's what it takes. Looked like you had a pretty good light there, too.
You're number one. It must feel great.
It does. Thanks.
Here we got a chance to live this one again, Kristen Powell. Look at the advantage Scelzi had.
Oh, yeah, he's amazing. You know, getting a 428 light, that's pretty good. You can see Bernstein pedaling it there. Unfortunately, it didn't do the job for him.
No, it did not. He tried. He stayed stuck. That's interesting because he backed out of the throttle, got back in it again, ran 463, but it was more than a car length difference at the finish line as the Johnson family crew starts to celebrate. With the winner, here's Alan.
Gary Scelzi, 8-0.
Oh my God, are we lucky or what? That was awesome.
Lucky, a 428 light, a 462.
Oh man, I'll tell you what, AJ Power, and we used it up. I'll tell you, I had a little guy ride with me today, and we did it for him.
You guys have just been awesome at the beginning of the year here.
You know what? I'll tell you what, you ride the wave. Everything has been great. You know, it's not going to be like this all the time, but I'm going to tell you what a great start. And I want to say hi to my cousin Jim Tiori and another friend of mine, Wayne Laughlin. Hope you guys are having some fun right now.
There's going to be some fun in the Winston camp tonight, David.
I guarantee you there is fun right here on ESPN2. You are seeing some absolutely fabulous drag racing. The Winston point standings, who's at the top when you win 8 rounds in a row? It can be none other than Gary Scelzi. Second, Kenny Bernstein. Joe Amato is third from his runner-up finish at Pomona 3 weeks ago. Then comes Connie Coletta and Shelly Anderson, the top 5 in the Winston standings thus far in the 1997 NHRA season. Kristen, that's just incredible side-by-side competition.
What a drag race. You know, I mean, they both ran really low 60s. You know, hats off to both of them. But, you know, that's 2 in a row for Gary.
Inside the car driven by Gary Scelzi is a photograph of the late Blaine Johnson. And he means it when he says Blaine Johnson's riding with him. That thought, of course, is always in everyone's mind because at the time of his death in that qualifying accident at Indy last season, Blaine Johnson was leading the Winston points chase. So here they are. The Johnson family is back. The Team Winston group is in the lead for the title.
An hour. Also in qualifying, this is Gary Scelzi, the Team Winston machine owned by Alan Johnson. It was the last qualifying round. He was not in the field. Little pressure here for the boys, and all it does is go out, goes down a 460 pass. Little smoke, but hey, they had all night to fix it. That's a lot better than having 2 weeks to fix it, which would have been the case had they not qualified. 92, and he ran almost. Almost. Well, you know. There's Alan Johnson. And the driver, Gary Scelzi, up on the starting line. And that's Pat Dakin, longtime runner out of Ohio. Patty qualified number 14 at a 479. And Gary Scelzi smoking him in the Team Winston, and that's no goal. Qualified at a 466. So they're going to back up Scelzi, looking to win his 3rd straight here at the start of the 97 season.
I mean, we go to every race to win. No question about it. We went to Pomona to win it. We went to Phoenix to win it. We're here to win this one. Whether it happens or not, I don't know, but you have to set your sights high and try not to settle for anything less.
Hey, Steve, this team really only made 1 good run in qualifying. Is that going to play on him here in this opening round?
Yes, Bob, I think it will. There were several other cars, including Tony Schumacher, who qualified very high. Got to remember, Friday morning, it was cool, it was perfect, a little bit of headwind like we have now. But yeah, I think it will have an effect, yeah. And let me tell you, Scelzi, had he not qualified, that would have been like falling off the Empire State Building emotionally.
I think I'd rather not qualify if I had my choice of the two, but hey, that's a personal preference. There's Alan Johnson. His late brother Blaine, of course, went to the finals, won this race just a year ago. Taken up in smoke, little pump, little bang, but right on down the racetrack. In the lane goes Gary Scelzi, Team Winston, 471, 301 miles per hour. As they advance, they will take on Jim Head. A little irony right there, as that pair will meet up in the next round. Jim Head won his first championship in a long while with the help of Alan Johnson last year. Casey, what do you see from those lanes now? Top fuel so far at the start of 1997. The whole story has been, well, Gary Scelzi. You know, when you say the name Cinderella, the first person to come to mind probably isn't Gary Scelzi. His top fuel doesn't resemble a pumpkin, and he wears Nomex and not glass footwear. But his 1997 season is certainly the stuff of fairy tales. 2 wins and as many starts to kick off the season has matched Gary with Kelly Brown, who began the 1978 Winston Championship run with a pair of wins in 3 races. His only loss coming to Big Daddy in the Swamp Rat right here at Gainesville. Scelzi hopes for a repeat of the Johnson family magic that Blaine Johnson had in this race a year ago. Well, maybe without all the commotion in the other lane. And if Team Winston can strike for a 3rd time in 1997, it could mean midnight's tolling already for the rest of the top fuel pack. Boy, it hurt me, Eddie, and I was just watching it. This is Scelzi against Pat Dagan. Scelzi in the Team Winston machine. Hey, boys, smoke him if you got him. Well, Pat Dagan smoked him. Gary Scelzi got him. The win, that is. And Team Winston has now gone 9 straight rounds without tasting defeat. 471, not bad numbers at 301. Side of the ladder. Corey Mack and Mike Dunn in the Mopar car both advanced. You know that Gary Scelzi did, and it would be Jim Head and the close call car as they go in to round number 2.
Racing Jim Head is a bit of a dilemma for Alan Johnson. Let's remember last year Alan served as a consultant to the Head team and personally wrenched Jim to his first national event victory at Topeka. But now they're both in the same category. He's still a consultant, but really only between races. His contract says he can't go over and help Head tune his car unless, of course, this car is already out of competition. And so for a 97, that hadn't happened.
Take a look at some of that action in round number 2, and there is the close call machine of Jim Head. He would take on Gary Scelzi and Team Winston, as Steve just mentioned. And there's a lot of close friendships here in this particular matchup. Scelzi in the near lane hasn't lost this year. The close call communication car in the far lane, it's a close call. But how about that? ET, phone home, or Jim Head, go home. 476, Team Winston and Scelzi are winners.
10 rounds and 10 wins. How about it?
They just don't get any easier, do they, Steve? I'll tell you what, this thing, I don't know enough about this stuff to know what's going on, but it feels like it's spinning when it's leaving. It's soft, then it moves through the middle hard, and then she kind of lays back down here.
One good thing, though, you have Amato and Bernstein on the opposite side of the ladder.
Yeah, hopefully we can, you know, get enough data on this run to find out what's happening to get her in the 60s, because, boy, we know we're going to have to be there.
Well, it's a good thing Scelzi's having a good race day. He's certainly having a bad hair day. Wow. At least not today. Let's go to the semis and top fuel activity. It's Team Winston. They have not lost in 10 rounds this year. Mopar, Mike Dunn, Darrell Gwynn, and the Florida faithful flying in the near lane. Oh, baby! Mike Dunn punches out Team Winston. 470 at 308 miles an hour, and you're riding on top of the one car that we know is going into the finals, and he did it on a whole shot. 470 beats Scelzi's 468. Look at this at the top end, how close. Those guys think they're pro stockers. Wow. Joe Amato moves into the number 2 slot in the points. Gary Scelzi, even though he went out in the semis, he is still the points leader. KB, Mike Dunn with a great driving job in the finals.
He is 61 years old. He is the oldest professional with a long-term sports contract with the folks at Pennzoil, and the Texan will be back. Here is Gary Scelzi driving the Team Winston car, and of course, in memory of Blaine Johnson, the driver of this car that was killed in that qualifying accident at Indy last year at the U.S. Nationals. I asked you to hold the thought about combination. We see this racetrack getting possibly a little damp, the weather turning cooler. Is there anything that the crew chief can do in the last few moments before you run that can change that combination?
Well, you can do a few things. A lot of teams probably are changing their fuel combination, maybe dumping a little alcohol in it to knock the nitro percentage down. Some last-minute clutch changes on some flows could possibly slow the clutch down in a problem area, which seems to be about 100 feet off the starting line. If I had to do things over again, we would change the flows on the clutch at 100 feet out, slow it down, actually slow the clutch down, the acceleration of the car, and then get the momentum build up and then get after it. And you're going to give up a little performance tonight, but you can certainly get down the track and learn something for tomorrow.
So it is Gary Scelzi and the Team Winston car up against the close call phone card machine. Jim Head will be doing the driving. Oh, Scelzi's had quite a season already. Has won the first 2 races of the year. He is a rookie, and he's got a burning enthusiasm.
I don't think there's a limit what you can do at Houston, especially Friday night qualifying, with the air getting cold, and that track is really known for having teeth. So we're excited.
Nobody is better at clutches than Alan Johnson. And of course, if there is some credence to the thought that here in the cool night air in this qualifying session at Houston Raceway Park, that the Johnson machine could run quick, Gary Scelzi is the guy to watch.
It is Alan Johnson. If there's a combination to be had to get down this racetrack, I'm confident Alan Johnson can get his car down the track, and Scelzi will make a nice run. If this car smokes and shakes and has to shut off, I'll be real surprised.
What's ironic is that Alan Johnson, you see walking away from the car after positioning Scelzi where he wants him, is the tuning advisor on Jim Head's car. The rear end started to come around on him, and he did the only thing you can do at that point, shut it off.
Well, these cars cover ground so quickly that you can't get out of the throttle quick enough sometimes. When you think the car moved 2 inches, it actually moved 2 feet. So Jim did the smart thing. You know, there's a run tomorrow. Don't do anything stupid tonight. I was surprised both cars had traction problems.
Well, we'll see what comes up a little bit later, but coming up next here.
Well, I've got quite a pair here, Dave. Kenny Bernstein, the reigning Winston champion, and Gary Scelzi. You guys have put on a great show this year. Kenny, your car, when it doesn't get into shake, really runs hard.
It does, but this guy's obviously won 2 races, so we're still chasing him pretty hard. But we do. We've got a fine race car, fine team, and we're going to be okay. But we do have a hiccup right there, and it does shake me pretty hard, and you're just not going to win that way. We've got to get the consistency out of it and make it happen every time nice and smooth. And that's very difficult to do with these race cars. They're very temperamental.
Well, I know one thing, Gary. You may be a rookie, but nobody's thinking about you that way, even this early in the season. But you've got your sights set on his #1.
Oh, yeah. Well, of course, we want the #1. You know, Team Winston's hungry, but, you know, there's a lot of things that are involved in being that #1, and it's a long way coming. And I've got a lot to learn. If I can pedal it like Kenny can save a lot of runs that I've got a learning process to go through.
Well, we will be back with more Top Fuel.
As well as this year's freshman, Gary Scelzi and Kristen Powell, who faced off in round 1 here at the Slick 50 Nationals. Scelzi has 2 event wins this season, while Kristen has yet to get past the 2nd round in a Top Fuel car. Both drivers staged very carefully in this round 1 match. Kristen lost traction at the start. Scelzi made the grade and advanced with a 464 at 309. Now, Top Fuel's not the only class with graduated alcohol drivers. Alan Reinhardt's down in the Fuel Coupe pit. The Coletta Racing Clan, Connie Coletta. Here are the point standings coming into Houston. Gary Scelzi, Joe Amato, Kenny Bernstein, Mike Dunn, and 2-time Winston champ Scott Coletta. Backing up after the long burnout, our next pair in the near lane, it is Mike Dunn. Runner-up down at the Gator Nationals in Gainesville just a couple of weeks ago. He won here back in 1965. His opponent, the new driver for Alan Johnson. Gary Scelzi qualified in the #5 spot. He defeated Kristen Powell, as we saw earlier, with a 464. Meantime, Dunn qualified in the 12th spot at a 476 and improved to a 468 when the Mopar dragster put away Jim Head in the first round. Look at the wheel stand for Mike Dunn, and look at the win for Gary Scelzi. He's serving notice, don't count us out, guys. 463 at over 312 miles an hour. Dunn ran an incredible 503 on this run, and watch the Mopar car in the near lane and watch the wheel stands. First one, he lifts, it comes back to earth, and then again after it bounces off the pavement, the front end goes up, and Mike Dunn finally is forced to back out again. You can't lift off the throttle that many times and expect to win the race. Let's go to Allen in the far end. This is the very talented Jimmy Brock, the crew chief for Joe Amato. He's backing his boss up into the spot he wants him on the starting line. Meantime, Alan Johnson, the crew chief and car owner on Gary Scelzi's Team Winston machine, making a final check of the engine, showing to Gary that the throttle stop has been removed. The crewman taking it off after the burnout. The Keystone Valvoline Key Auto Parts car of Joe Amato has been the dominant force from the #1 spot in qualifying to consistent low 460s in elimination. But he is facing one of his strongest challenges here in the Winston points leader, Gary Scelzi. Another national speed record, 317.57 miles an hour. No bonus points goes with that, just bragging rights. And Joe Amato runs a 4:59 in eliminations here in the heat of the day. What a perfect run for Amato. He easily outdistances Scelzi's 478.
317.
Now, Gary Scelzi in Winston's own car nailed it with a 464 Friday night under the lights, but wanted even more in the final session. Even with his finesse, it just didn't happen.
Well, I can tell you is Alan Johnson knows his game, and he knows when it gets hot, and he knows when it gets cold. He just knows, I guess.
You have to pedal this car at all. Is there anything you're doing in there that maybe you're helping the ride?
You know, this thing reacts so quick and it pulls so hard. On that run, I come off the throttle a little bit about half track and went back down. At least I think I did.
Now the safe puke. Anyway, we'll take a look at what that new puke system is a little bit later on in the show. This is a big-time opening round pair. The Bud King, the king of speed, the first guy over 300. Kenny Bernstein, the reigning NHRA Winston champ. A great look from the onboard camera. Team Winston. Gary Scelzi driving for Alan Johnson. The late brother Blaine Johnson won this thing in '96. Unbelievable drag race. Kenny Bernstein, 485, beats Gary Scelzi's quicker 4.84. The lanes are individually timed. The timers start when the driver moves. You could visually see the Bud King get off the starting line first. Even though he's a little bit slower on the racetrack, only 100, but he gets the win based on the reaction time in the starting line. Sensational run. In the final four, Bernstein and Sarver, Joe Amato, and Jim Head. Now let's take a look at the funny cars in the 8.
Here's Corey McLenithan. The driver of the McDonald's machine is matched against the man that has gone into the lead in the Winston points chase. As a result of Amato's first round loss, we're talking about the Team Winston car, driven by Gary Scelzi. Alan Johnson, the car owner and the crew chief, put him in the #1 spot at a 466. Scelzi qualified light years ahead of everybody else. 480 for Corey McLenithan was his qualifying time. He beat Tommy Johnson Jr. with a 501 in the first round. Scelzi slowed from that torrid qualifying pace to only a 492 to take out the number 16 qualifier Doug Herbert in his first round matchup. Instantly, Corey McLennan goes up in smoke, and there's another 20 points for Gary Scelzi. 475 at 300 miles an hour, certainly keeping pace with the rest of the field. In fact, just a little bit ahead of some of the times we have seen thus far in round number 2. Here's the pairings. Scelzi against Schumacher. Gary gets the lane choice. Kenny Bernstein will pick his lane against Jim Head in the final 4. Down at the far end of the racetrack, let's go to Alan Reinhardt.
Another win light, a solid elapsed time, and 20 more of those valuable Winston points.
And it's dry, but boy, was this thing moving around down there on the top end. But AJ, he knows his stuff. When we're ready, I think we're okay.
Still ran 300.
Yeah, well, not bad, huh?
Not bad at all. Great tuning job by Alan Johnson for a very tricky racetrack. Funny car action coming your way. 292 miles an hour. Those 300-mile-an-hour speeds hard to come by thus far this weekend. Here's our next pair. Tony Schumacher is in the lane nearest the camera. He drives that layback machine for the Beek brothers. His opponent, the top qualifier, Gary Scelzi, who had a 466. A little bit earlier, Alan Reinhardt dropped by the Scelzi pit area to look at some engine development.
There's an old adage in racing that if you're not moving forward, you're going to get run over. And Alan Johnson has never been one to stand still when it comes to development of new parts. Even though the Team Winston cars won a couple of races this year, they are bringing out the latest in hardware this weekend with a brand new cylinder head. A couple of things that are different. The intake valve is larger. The port also is larger. Remember, the more air you get in, the more horsepower you can make. The exhaust valve is actually smaller, but a different port design speeds up the velocity to get the exhaust gases out more efficiently. Now, this is a brand new piece. The first time they are ever run on the car, right here on ESPN.
Talk about performance. Scelzi has had it this year. Every race he has run in the 460 zone, and this one is no exception. Oh, Schumacher was a lot closer than anybody would have thought. The winning time for Scelzi, 478 at 288. The losing time of 488 for Tony Schumacher. The big difference in that race came at the starting line. Schumacher almost pulled off the upset. Look at the huge lead he had in the flesh of green. The layback car way ahead of Scelzi at this point. Gary just had to rely on the tune-up by Alan Johnson. Provide the power and the traction that got him past Schumacher. But it was still a very close race indeed, about a half a car length. Now let's go with Alan Reinhardt to the top fuel pit area of Gary Scelzi and Alan Johnson.
Gary Scelzi, you and Kenny have raced twice. You won the first one. He won the second one. It's your turn.
That's the way I've got it figured. I'm going to have to go down there and give Kenny a little talking to.
This car has been incredible all day, all weekend, really.
You know, Alan, he's a master, and I'll tell you what, I'm just fortunate to be driving for Team Winston, and these guys are working their tails off. I hope we have a good time in the final.
You still get butterflies when you go to the starting line?
Are you kidding? I'm sick to my stomach right now.
You'd never know it by the smile on his face. Scelzi, of course, coming out of the alcohol ranks of competition, as are both of these drive at the end of this event. Here's Kenny Bernstein, the crew checking everything over to make sure all is well. As Bernstein comes up against the other red car in competition, Gary Scelzi and the Team Winston machine. This has developed into quite a rivalry. Scelzi's already won 2 races this year. Bernstein has no wins to his credit. And with that run, and look at the jubilation by Dale Armstrong, his crew chief, Kenny Bernstein stays the picture of consistency, a 479 victory over Gary Scelzi, the points leader. Off the starting line, Bernstein gave up about 100th of a second to Scelzi. But by the time they had reached the finish line, Bernstein's 479 easily outdistanced the 4.90 at only 281 by Scelzi. Let's go down to Alan Reinhardt. Well, Gary Scelzi has moved into the lead over Joe Amato. Kenny Bernstein continues to gnaw away at those top points earners. He's in third, Mike Dunn and Connie Coletta
4th and 5th. Field radically. I promised them to you. Here they come. Top Fuel Eliminator, and here's the way they stand coming into this session. Number 1, Bob Vandergrift Jr. with a track record 466. Closely followed by Larry Dixon. Kristen Powell is number 8. Then here's the bottom half of the field, and down at the bottom, just like Funny Car, sometimes where racers had trouble getting down the racetrack. You're on board with Kristen Powell. She is the driver of that Royal Purple machine. Let's go down to the number 16 qualifier. He's got a bad time, but he's a happy guy. Here's Bill. Possibility of that, but again, it all reverts back to the tuner and what kind of fun setting does he have? This is Kristen Powell. Mike Klober, the head wrench on that machine. Here is Alan Johnson. He described for you a little bit earlier the problems they had in the first session when they had a clutch malfunction on the Team Winston car, driven by the Winston points leader, Gary Scelzi. Everybody's checking the opposite lane to make sure they're set, ready to go. Thumbs up goes to Scelzi. Kristen Powell settles herself in. Hopes she can run as quick as she did in her debut performance at Pomona earlier this year when she ran a 464. Wow, did you see Gary Scelzi lift off the throttle? You say no. Well, when those flames go down like that, the only reason it is the driver has shut the throttle, trying to regain traction. Scelzi felt the car starting to lose traction, and he ran a tremendous 472 at over 309 miles an hour. Watch this. Off the starting line. Right about now, he begins to sense the car is starting to shake and lose traction. There, he lifted off the throttle. The flames came down. He got right back on it. Here's another angle. There. Brilliant driving job by Gary Scelzi. What it did, it salvaged the run and has qualified him in the number 3 spot. So Scelzi and Alan Johnson, with a speed of 309 miles an hour, have got themselves a real powerhouse here with the Team Winston machine. He's already qualified twice this year in the number 1 spot on the NHRA Winston Trail. As they get the Scelzi car off the track, our fans are waiting, so are we. Alan is caught up with what I am sure is a very happy Gary Scelzi.
Gary, I will bet Alan Johnson said, get it to the finish line.
That's exactly what he said. But before I answer any questions, I want to say hi to Julie and hi to Dominic before you beat me to it.
I wouldn't do that. Nice pedal job out there and still got a decent number.
Boy, you know, it went out there and it shook quick, and I thought I was a little late on the catch, but evidently I caught it okay, but it welded the clutch, and we might have burned it up a little bit on that one.
Don't forget, Max, this guy's still a rookie, too.
Rookie indeed, but certainly filling some big shoes out of the late Blaine Johnson. See, we saw him just a few moments ago do a great job of driving. I was highly complimentary of you, and I still am. That was really nice.
Well, thank you. You know, it started to rattle a tire, and Alan told me before we ran, he said, you know the drill. Whatever it takes to get it down there, we got to get this car qualified.
Well, you did into the number 3 spot. I don't know how good that's going to be because the weather tomorrow is supposed to be pretty good as well.
Well, I don't know where it'll hold up, but I think a 72 is okay. I mean, it should be maybe barely in the top half, hopefully.
At least it'll give you lane choice in the first round, if that's the way it ends up tomorrow. Here's our next pair of...
On this racetrack today, the crew chief is really critical as well. This is going to take a team effort between the driver and the crew chief to win this race.
It certainly is, and I'll tell you, you know, the fuel cars have so much more traction on the rear wheels than the funny cars do. It's going to be interesting what happens when we get into a funny car. But right now, we got the Gary Scelzi, the points leader, and the Winston points chase in the Winston car against Shelly Anderson.
Let's take a look
on the camera that got some problems down here on the big end.
Oh, get aggressive, knock him down. That was Alan Johnson with a thumbs up to Gary Scelzi up against defending Pennzoil Nationalist champion Shelly Anderson.
Number 1 against number 16 should be a great race.
Shelly left and then just went out and parked it and got back on the gas again. And look at Scelzi. Alan Johnson have a handle on this car in this racetrack. 467 at 311 miles an hour when nobody else can go down.
He had a 5:19 reaction time, which is not the world's greatest, and I'm sure he'll beat himself up a little bit about that, but the victory is his. He's in the winner's circle, and that's all that really matters.
At the 1/8 of a mile, Scelzi was running 262 miles an hour at half track in 3.15 seconds. That car ran 262. That's even more impressive than the 311 at 467.
Yes, it is. 49-mile-an-hour gain in the last half of the racetrack. That's pretty substantial for a fuel car.
An amazing race car. Hey, Unc, you got Gary Scelzi?
Gary Scelzi, 467, 311. Man, you guys are flying and hooking on this racetrack.
Well, what can I say? Alan Johnson, he knows his department in that clutch, I'll tell you.
Driver's not doing a bad job out there either, though.
Oh, I don't know. The driver's a weak link here. Thank God for Alan.
It's going to be a tough race today, though.
Yeah, it is. You know, it's anybody's ball game. When the track conditions changing, the weather, we don't know. It's all a crapshoot.
You heard what he said. Driver's the weak link. He's going to beat himself up over that reaction time on the starting line. He'll go back and practice and sit there and get his mind game straight.
Well, reaction time has always been Scelzi's. Even though Team Winston fields both a top fuel dragster and a funny car, there's a huge difference as opposed to, say, Don Prudhomme, who owns both cars, or Brad Anderson, Joe Gibbs. Again, they own both cars. These teams are not headquartered together. They don't share a shop. They don't travel together. So whatever information transfer there is has to happen here at the racetrack.
But once these teams are at the racetrack, they're able to talk back and forth between themselves, and Alan Johnson has been able to share some technology with Whit Bazemore and Rob Flynn. Alan, what sort of things do you feel that you've done that are able to contribute to your teammates' performance improvements?
Oh, I think our experience with clutch management's helped a little bit, and that's pretty much the area they need to work in. And just being able to make a lot of runs each year has helped us along, and we're trying to add some of that to them.
Anything to do with the engine performance, or has their combination pretty much been consistent?
We gave them an engine combination last year when they purchased heads from my cylinder head company, and so that's been kind of a constant since Topeka last year.
Was dedicated to safety. We would never send any.
Well, folks at home, welcome to our live telecast on NHRA Today. Coming up in this round will be the most important first-round confrontation of the entire season thus far. It will be Kenny Bernstein, the Budweiser King, number 3 in points, against Gary Scelzi, Team Winston, number 1 in points. And don't you know, the most interested spectator will be Joe Amato, who's number 2 in points, right between them. He'll be rooting for his pal Bernstein to knock off Scelzi round 1. The last 2 races, Amato has gone out round number 1. We'll see how it all plays out. Right now, meet the newest member of Rennie. In fact, he was pretty pouty at the end of the racetrack. He got even later on in the season, and this is really the rubber match. Again, I say, who leads first will get the win. Who do you like, David?
Well, I tell you, after talking with Alan Johnson and listening to him, how they're going to tune this car, that right lane is the dominant lane right now. So I guess I'm going to be a little bit of a winner and go with the Team Winston car of Gary Scelzi. Out of the water area, Team Winston. Here comes Big Red. Kenny Bernstein, the King of Speed, the Winston stand. Actually, the exact name for the Team Winston car on the far side should be Team Winston, It's a Boy, I Love You, Jules, because they've had a pretty good weekend here in qualifying, and it also became a proud new papa.
It's not exciting enough, I guess, driving a top fuel dragster, but having my first boy and my wife being okay and everything great, I'm really excited right now.
And he ought to be. If you look, he's smoking a cigar underneath that helmet. They came out in qualifying earlier this weekend, though, Steve, and blew this baby up. I mean, took the engine out and the frame rails as well. They've had a lot of work to get this car to this particular point.
Yeah, they sure did, Bob, and they're not really sure why. They think it was just a part failure, plain and simple. And you're right, they had welders over there very carefully fixing that chassis, because there have been some problems with broken chassis this year. Witness the Marshall Topping incident in Gainesville. So they took their time with that one. Even if they'd had to miss a session, they were going to do it right.
Big time run, and it's only round 1 here on TNN. Kenny Bernstein fouls out. Oh my, Kenny Bernstein left early by 9/1000ths of a second. He is out of here. Scelzi 4.70, 301 miles an hour. They might look back on this one at the end of the season when they divvy up the prizes for the Winston champion. Way to go, Gary Scelzi. He too is staying alive. The big-time matchup, round one, the red cars. The Bud King going off against Gary Scelzi. They've met twice this year. Prior to this, both in final rounds, they split. Oh, baby. Red light start for Kenny Bernstein. You saw it. And see those things on the camera? That wasn't oil. Those were teardrops from the driver of the Bud King because he was out of here.
Here in the Team Winston pits, they are busily getting this car ready for the second round confrontation against Scott Coletta, but they're still real happy about beating Kenny Bernstein. But Gary Scelzi this weekend has another reason to celebrate, because Friday, while you were racing in Texas, your wife in California gave birth to your first child.
Yeah, she gave birth to Dominic Michael Scelzi. I'm so excited. They faxed me a picture, but it was hard to tell, you know, what it was.
Well, let me tell you what. Here's your first look.
Oh, my God.
At Dominic Michael.
Oh, how'd you do this?
We have our ways.
Steve, you're incredible.
What do you think?
Oh, man. I love him. I love you, Julie.
Well, look at the next picture.
Oh, man.
Julie and her friends and family right after the delivery.
Wow. What can I say? That's incredible. Oh.
I got a feeling, folks, that this picture right here will find itself taped inside this race car for round two.
Right next to Blaine. I could use it, too.
Congratulations, Pops.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it.
Maybe that'll be a little good luck thread for Gary Scelzi and Team Winston, although I'm not really sure Mom's going to be real happy with millions of people seeing her picture right after the birth of the baby. But kept on, keep it on, and Top Fuel, and it would be Scott Coletta and Gary Scelzi. These guys ran within 200ths of each other in round number one, 468 to a 470. It would probably take times in that same range to win this one here. Scott's been out of the winner's circle for a while. Scelzi looking for his third win on the season. Bang, out of the gate they go. Here comes Team Winston. Say hi to Mom. Say hi to the new baby. We have a winner. And Dave Reef talks about the racetrack after that Scelzi win.
That was one great drag race, a 67 to a 69.
Wow, I'm so glad we won that one. We're going to the semis. Dominic, Mom, we're okay.
Indeed. You've got Dominic in there?
Yeah, he's right around on the other side. I got Blaine to the right of me, and I got Dominic to the left. How can you lose?
That's a pretty good combination.
Now let's go to Dave Reed. The other semifinal, there's Jimmy Prock saying, go get him, boss. Make sure he's got that eye of the tiger and all that stuff. His car weighs about 50 pounds more than everybody else's, just carrying that little bag with him. Team Winston, the new daddy in the near lane. Oh, baby, looks like their final at Pomona earlier this year. Only difference is Amato gets the win at 6.26. First race of the season, these two guys lit the tires up just like that. But out there, it was Gary Scelzi recovering and getting the win. Sideways, Joe Amato recovers, goes right down Broadway and gets the win. Let's talk with Gary Scelzi.
Well, Gary, when it broke loose, there's a point at which these things just rebel if you try to pedal them too many times.
Well, I tell you what, good thing Julie had the baby already, because that was pretty darn exciting. I just didn't want to give up. You know, we're chasing this championship deal, and Joe's tough, and God, you hate to lose. I almost thought, you know, I got it halfway down, and I started to take off again. I rolled her down, but boy, she went kaboom. Got a little warm in there.
Go home and love that kid, huh?
Oh, I will. I'll be home shortly, and I'm okay. Love you, Fresno.
Well, I am kicked.
Welcome to the Pennzoil Nationals at Virginia Motorsports Park, just outside of Richmond, Virginia. The Gary Scelzi team hard at work on their Top Fuel dragster. Hi, everybody. I'm Dave McClellan. And you know, it was 2 weeks ago we were here for the first time. The rains came right after the first round of eliminations. At that time, the Scelzi camp very happy because they made it down the racetrack. The rest of the Top Fuel teams 2 weeks ago, well, their moods were just about as gloomy as the skies. And Jr. headed to the semifinals, back at the starting line. A race that could have tremendous impact on the Winston points chase. Gary Scelzi, the Winston points leader, against Kenny Bernstein, who is currently number 3, the reigning champ, trying to make a move here. And this is at about the stage of the season when Bernstein needs to start winning rounds. He won the first round over Pat Dakin with a subpar 6:44 last time. He had qualified 8th at a 4:74. Scelzi, on the other hand, beat Shelly Anderson. He ran 4:67 after his 4:64 qualifying time that put him number 1. Scelzi with a great reaction time, partially due to his deep staging procedure. Got himself a 4:68 elapsed time. His speed, 307. Here from Kenny Bernstein's car with the onboard camera mounted on the wing strut. Watch Gary Scelzi just drive away. Bernstein's elapsed time was a 4:69.
How about a huge hole shot, a 68 to a 69, you win?
Wow, I went 69?
You went 68.
Oh, well, that's okay. Man, I'll tell you what, anytime you race Kenny, you just got to get yourself charged up. And I tried to take a big roll and turn the top light out, and that probably helped me quite a bit. But we won. That's all that matters.
I know you've got a lot of respect for their team, but you like beating him probably more than anybody.
Well, you know, Kenny's a champion, and you know, it's as much fun beating him as it is a motto. It's just, you know, you don't get to beat him enough.
20 more valuable Winston points.
All right, we're going to the next one.
Gary Scelzi extending his lead in the Winston Championship. Here is a dude that got Bob Vandegrift Jr. and forcing him to lift. Here is Mike Dunn wheeling Darrell Gwynn's Mopar dragster. The tuner on this machine was able to Ken Feeney. There you see him walking up to the car. Does a lot of R&D and cylinder head development and has been tuning for about the past year on the Gwynn machine. Alan Johnson, the car owner and crew chief for Gary Scelzi's Team Winston machine. Again, 500 cubic inch maximum displacement on these nitro burning power plants. What a run, 4:66, gaining in lane choice in the final round at over 304 miles an hour. Gary Scelzi continues to amass the points. Let's take a ride with Mike Dunn, and maybe you'll just get an idea what tire shake is all about. The vibrations set in, and the car begins to rattle and shake and move. It's a landlocked earthquake for Mike Dunn. So going to the finals, it'll be Gary Scelzi and Corey McLenithan. Scelzi with the lane choice by 0.05 of a second. Down at the far end of the racetrack, Allen is with Gary.
This ought to be fun in the final, Gary. A couple of young lions, a couple of former alcohol guys going at it.
Oh, man, and a great guy, Corey McLenithan. But Team Winston, Mac Tool, NGK, Synergen Oil, we're off to the final, boy. I just hope the luck stays with us.
You're locked in the 60s, and that's where you need to be.
Well, we're going to have to be. You know, Corey and them, they can run 50s, they can run 60s, too. Corey's an excellent driver. This is going to be a tough one.
Hard to say when you run a consistent 460s that the... And who says Warren Johnson doesn't have a sense of humor? Here is Corey McLenithan. And this is the Alan Johnson that everybody knows is the super tuner on the Team Winston car. His driver, Gary Scelzi, has definitely been on this day. Consistent 460 lap time. He's got the lane choice here over Corey Mack. Gary Scelzi crosses the finish line with a 4:73, 282 miles an hour, down just a bit in the elapsed time department, but more than enough to stay ahead of Corey McLenithan. Let's take a look at this one again in replay and watch the car in the far lane. Watch Corey Mack lift off the throttle, get back on it when he feels the tire shake starting. That lets Scelzi gain the lead, and he held it to the finish line.
Let's talk about Gary Scelzi the last couple of weeks. The car's been thundering.
Car's been thundering, and my driving's coming back, and you know, we're working so well together, and tomorrow's Mother's Day. I want to say happy Mother's Day to my mom, Agnes, my wife, Julie, and my mother-in-law, Margie.
Major points lead.
And every other mother out there, thank you. Man, this is great. You have no idea.
We can tell in the reaction of Scelzi, and look at the points lead that he has over Joe Amato, Kenny Bernstein in third. Corey Mack and Mike Dunn round out the top five. And
points chase is a long way from over. Here's the guy that's making life miserable for everybody, Gary Scelzi. He'll take on Tony Schumacher in the layback machine. Tony went to the finals last year out in Indianapolis, Indiana. Alan Johnson, Everett Johnson, and their hired gun, Gary Scelzi. What a great rookie year he's had. Dave Reese down there by the starting line. Dave, no sooner had I said that we haven't seen anybody smoke the tires, and we get two guys back-to-back blow them off on the starting line.
I've been talking to crew chiefs all morning. They say these lanes are very, very equal. And Jimmy Fruck said that this track is almost too ripe. It's almost too good. They can't get enough power onto the racetrack. I did ask Scelzi yesterday, this is your lowest qualifying effort. Is there a kink in your armor? He said, absolutely not. We're just trying a few things out. But come race day, that would be today. They are darn ready to go.
In the next round already, we have Herbert taking on Bruce Sarver, Scott Coletta, and Shelly Anderson, Kristen Powell, and Corey Mack, and Larry Dixon will race the winner of this one. Well, Gary Scelzi sitting there. You can see in his eyes is bigger. Let's see, Amato went out. And Bernstein went out. If I win this, that's 20 points. They're not going to get any points. Cool. Find out what he does. Coach is also probably thinking, Bernstein went out. Amato went out. Tony Schumacher is certainly not a gimme right here. Out 3 in a row. Smoke the tires right on the starting line, and low elapsed time of the round for Gary Scelzi. He goes 4.60. He'll meet Dixon in the next round. Poor Larry Dixon ran a 4.61, and he doesn't even get lane choice. That guy does. Team Winston strolling into round number 2. We've got funny cars coming up next.
Gary Scelzi might seemingly have an easy road in adding points to his Winston points lead, but a very formidable opponent stands in his way, and a newfound friend of both Kenny Bernstein and Joe Amato. It's Larry Dixon, who's been stellar this weekend, running career best all weekend long.
It'd be the red car against the blue car. Dixon from California. Loves New Jersey. Last 2 years. Finals. Right here. A win. A runner-up. Would New Jersey and Dixon be perfect together? Nope. Gary Scelzi ran him down almost for Dixon's car. Now we take a look at the final 4 in Top Fuel Eliminator. Team Winston would appear to have everything going their way. Alan Johnson out in front. Gary Scelzi at the wheel, the new Papa. They're going to match it up with Kristen Powell. Mike Clover, the crew chief. Royal Purple. Sequent Computers. On board. This will be very interesting. On paper, it would appear to be a mismatch. Team Winston has been dominant here in 97. Big wheels up, charge, lot of tires smoke, and oh, baby, Kristen Powell goes to the finals. She had only won 1 round all year coming into this one, and she's in the finals. Would she match up with
the Top Fuel cars? Here they come. Let's go to the far end of the racetrack with Steve Evans.
Well, Jim Yates, Winston champ, that
points lead. Gary Scelzi and Team Winston with the Alan Johnson car and Bruce Sarver. Dave Reef, we've seen great racing action right here. It's going to put a lot of pressure on these Top Fuel teams to match up to what we've already seen.
Yeah, and I don't think that's going to change here. I did talk with Lee Beard. They're planning on trying to step it up, try to run a low 60. They know they're up against a terrific team in the Alan Johnson Team Winston team, so they've adjusted their wing down to try to keep the car glued in the middle of the racetrack. As far as Gary Scelzi says, those guys are just trying to stay consistent. A nice low 70, high 60. They think they might be on the way to their 5th final.
The finishing touches to Team Winston. The Car Quest. Auto Parts Machine, the world's best oil. Lee Beard backs away. They've gone 472 and 476. Scelzi's gone 70 and 79. It's a pickup. .72 for Gary Scelzi. 305 miles an hour. 472 beats Bruce Sarver's 482. And again, the 2 drivers almost identical off the starting line. So Gary Scelzi goes to the championship round yet another time here at Heartland Park, Topeka, and he will take on the winner the next matchup coming up, and that's going to be some big iron. It's Joe Amato, Scott Coletta.
Western Auto Parts America Nationals. We're here in the Team Winston pit of Gary Scelzi, where the service work is already completed. The engine is warm, and they're ready to go. The biggest problem they have, a bent clutch pedal. They've already straightened that up, so there's a lot of Team Winston guys with a little time on their hands. So what do you do if you've got time on your hands? Well, you just watch a little TNN, drag racing. It's good stuff.
And probably eating those Rhonda Hartman hamburgers that she was cooking over there. Let's take a look down. It'll be the Vandergrift car, the Jersey's machine in the far lane. Here comes Big Red, Gary Scelzi, Alan Johnson's car. This car is just awfully tough to beat. They have already won 3 times, been to 4 finals, and they started their march here with a rather conservative, for that team, 4.70 pounding of Bob Vandergrift, who skied to a 5.02.
It hasn't been a year since Blaine Johnson lost his life doing what he loved, racing top fuel dragsters. His memory lives on with a picture inside of the Team Winston dragster, and words on the side of Gary Scelzi's car say it all, in loving memory of Blaine Johnson. No one has forgotten our fallen friend, including the folks here at Topeka, as they have renamed one of the set of grandstands the Blaine Johnson Grandstand to celebrate our fallen friend.
Ladies and gentlemen, there was not a better person nor a harder racer than Blaine Johnson. We will always miss him and remember him. In the second round, driving the Team Winston car would be Gary Scelzi, fresh out of the alcohol ranks just a year ago, and he would take on that Mike Dunn, the Mopar car. Whoa, there goes the red machine, 479, and they get the win again. And right now, this might be the hottest car in all of Winston Championship drag racing.
God, I'll tell you what, it started to smoke the tires, and I had to pedal it, and I thought, oh, here comes Mike. And no Mike. We were really lucky on that one. Team Winston goes another round.
And a big semifinal win against Bruce Sarver to get this guy to his 5th final already. Can't call him a rookie either. Take us through that semifinal run.
Well, you know, we were pretty nervous. We needed to get some points gained on Joe Amato, and, you know, Lee Beard's doing a heck of a job over there with Bruce Sarver, and the track's getting hot, and we didn't have lane choice, so, you know, we ran into a little trouble, went out there in the cars and tried to rattle the tire and tried to spin a little bit, but fortunately we got away with it. AJ knew the right call. You know, this is really an emotional race for us. You know, the Blaine Johnson Memorial Grandstands, and Blaine's mom, who I call my mom now, she's home with the flu, and I know she's watching right now. And Ma, if you're watching, we're doing everything we can to win this race, believe me. I just hope Scott Coletta's watching, so he'll roll over for us.
And Agnes, I heard also hugs for everyone in that grandstand when he wins. That's the plan in the Team Winston pit.
Hey, guys, Scott Coletta's a warm and fuzzy kind of guy, but there is no way, read it, no way, he's rolling over into the finals. Couple of times, once so far this season, and Gary Scelzi's gotten the measure of Scott, but then, hey, Scelzi and Team Winston's gotten the measure of just about everybody. Scott loves this track, loves this time of the year. Maybe he's Rob Flynn, crew chief and partner on Team Winston. And the Western Auto Parts America machine. Team Winston looking for a double here. Yeah, first leg up on that if Whit Bazemore can punch out Randy Anderson. Ladies and gentlemen, Whit Bazemore gets his first win after years of trying. His only other final came 5 years ago in Memphis, where he lost to Al Hoffman, and this truly is a crowd that's going to go wild. 503, 307. That car honks on the top end. Randy Anderson, 563, 189 as he smokes the tires, and all he can do is watch Team Winston go get 'em, boys. Somebody's going to take Whit Bazemore's picture this weekend, and this might be more emotional than what we saw from Scott Jeffrey-on. Go. That's it. Great action has already been concluded. Here come the quickest and fastest cars in all of motorsports. NHRA Winston Top Fuel. Steve, I'll tell you what's interesting about this is that Team Winston does not have lane choice, and there aren't too many guys out there that can say they have outpowered the red car going into a final.
Well, you're absolutely right, and I think the biggest thing that Scott Coletta, though, has to worry about is when Scelzi gets painted into a corner a little bit, he's kind of like a snake. He strikes out. Let's remember the final at Phoenix, a 4-1 reaction time. Kenny Bernstein will never forget that one. That is what Scelzi is capable of when he has to do it. He may be a little lazy on the lights when they're running those high 450s, low 460s, but I think, watch this guy. He may unscrew the red as he goes by.
What do you think, Dave? Who do you like?
Well, I got to agree with Steve. It's been a day of big races and big streaks that come to an end. We saw Larry Morgan's streak end. We also saw Randy Anderson lose in his first final. So that streak comes to an end. And like I said, so much emotion riding in that race car right now with the new Blaine Johnson grandstand, rather. I think it's Team Red.
Scott Coletta could become the favorite driver of everybody else in Top Fuel if he can stop this Team Winston juggernaut. Number 5 qualifier was Scott. Number 2 was Gary Scelzi, both behind Joe Amato. This is the Top Fuel final. Top end of the quarter mile. Scott Coletta throws a 4.64 at him. 315 miles an hour. That's why they call that the flying machine. He said the young guy's gone down, and Scelzi is down. 4.74 for Gary, 303 miles an hour. And even Scott showing some emotion at the end of the racetrack. A couple of Scotts in the winner's circle. Only one Team Red, but this was classic Winston NHRA Top Fuel drag racing. By a nose and 0.02 of a second, and Ed the Ace McCullough, yes, we got the win, and maybe we're going to start another one of those rolls. We'll do it for you. Scelzi leads the way. Amato in the number 2 slot. KB goes back to 3rd. Scott jumps up to the 4th. He's going to be a player the second half of the season. Remember, you heard it first right here. And Corey Mack drops down to the number 5 slot. Congratulations today.
But you're wondering about Gary Scelzi and Bob Vandergriff. Let's look back at their first round matchup.
Well, Frank Hawley, Gary, used the word tricky to describe this racetrack. The racers are saying treacherous. Scelzi, the red car in the far lane. Even though he's a rookie, this was the toughest track he had ever seen, and he survived it with a 4.89 second elapsed time at 281 miles an hour. Vandergriff trailed at 257.
So Scelzi finds himself into the second round, where he'll be matched up next against Mike Dunn, who eliminated Bruce Sarver. Dunn, Top Fuel dragster. You see Gary Scelzi, his rival, backing up in the far lane. Steve is now with Tony Schumacher. Meanwhile, Scelzi backing into position, a 3-time winner this year. And earlier, Frank looked at what learning adjustments Gary's had to make since stepping up from the alcohol division.
Top Fuel driver Gary Scelzi has graduated with ease from the alcohol dragster ranks to the Top Fuel ranks for 2 reasons. One is he's a great race car driver. The second has to do with the controls themselves. In his Top Fuel car, he has an accelerator pedal, a clutch pedal, and a brake lever. And on the starting line, he actually takes his foot off the clutch pedal and drives it like an automatic transmission because it has a centrifugal clutch. Just press the throttle down and release the brake. In the alcohol car, however, he has to hold the clutch pedal in, rev the engine to about 5,000 RPM, and control the clutch and the brake as he stages. When he leaves, he has to release the clutch pedal, press the throttle down, and release the brake at precisely the same moment, then quickly come to the steering wheel and make 2 precise gear changes on the way down the racetrack. So actually, he's a little busier in an alcohol car than a fuel car. And that's the reasons Gary has made such an easy transition into Top Fuel.
Well, here in round number 2, the rookie runs head-on into the veteran Mike Dunn. That's Scelzi's car, cleaning those tires up for maximum traction. And there is Jerry Gwynn, who's the team manager for Zandero Gwynn, and there's the driver Mike Dunn. He's a genius, Gary, at getting down difficult racetracks. If it does a wheel stand, unlikely here, he'll get it down. If it smokes the tires, he'll try to pull the brake, believe it or not.
Both men smoking tires, but Scelzi in that far lane had the advantage. He moves on with a 495 at better than 286 miles per hour. Now let's go back and take a unique look from on board Mike Dunn in the adjacent lane. As Scelzi comes into view, watch the flames back at the header. The intermittent flame indicates there's serious problems with the engine malfunctioning. And look at the flat edge at the back of the tire. It's not getting full power to the racetrack. Breaking loose, a wild ride for Scelzi.
Gary Scelzi, these kind of conditions make it a very interesting driver challenge.
I'll tell you what, I was driving the heck out of this Team Winston Top Fuel dragster. It was all over the place, and vibrating and shaking and rattling and rolling, but, well, we made it to another round, and thank God for that one.
And for 135. Who's going to race Tony Schumacher in the final round?
Well, here's the marquee matchup of Top Fuel. Gary Scelzi, the rookie and a 3-time winner, going against Joe Amato, a 5-time champion, also a 3-time winner this year. Now remember, Amato was having problems getting extraordinary tire wear. Frank Hawley earlier checked out the problem. Matchup has some interesting points implications. Amato was number 2, chasing Scelzi number 1. And moments ago, Steve talked to Scelzi about being Amato's target.
Well, I think I want Joe a little worse than he wants me. We need to stop that guy. He just keeps going too many rounds, and, you know, it seems like if he doesn't go out first round, he wins. So Alan Johnson and Gary Scelzi are going after Joe Amato.
Well, you can tell by the bouncing bodies who won. Let me tell you how they did it. Gary Scelzi, without lane choice, bore down on his reaction time. A 4.95 at 271 beats a quicker and faster 4.90 at 288 by Joe Amato. Gary Scelzi, the driver, won that one.
And we've got Columbus.
And it's time for that distinctive sound that literally shakes the ground as Alan Johnson walks away with the final Go Get 'em, Gary. Young Schumacher, Tony Schumacher, his second final round of his career, but his career is only about 9 months old. Gary Scelzi has done it one more time. Scelzi at 492 to Tony's game 503, a 284-mile-an-hour parting shot for the man in the red and white car in the near lane.
And as we have seen all day long, this racetrack, this quarter-mile strip, given drivers fits, both of them smoking tires in tandem, and then it's a pedaling contest. But Scelzi, for the 4th time this year, able to get the job done. What a roll he's on.
Gary Scelzi, you look exhausted. That's 4, man, this year.
Oh, God, how about Team Winston, Alan Johnson? I'm going to tell you, this crew worked their tails off today in this heat. And how about that Columbus fans? Boy, those stands were packed. This is just incredible. I'm so excited. I don't know what to say.
These are the kind of conditions you're going to face for the next few months, and you can race in them.
Well, you know what? Alan is really good at this stuff, and I got to tell you, I mean, I'm getting all the credit and all this stuff, but that team and Alan, I got to tell you, I'm so thankful they picked me. Right on!
Get that trophy.
And what a season this rookie is enjoying. He has graduated big time, nearly 200 points in front of Joe Amato now, thanks to the victory at Columbus.
And there was great example of just why you have electronic timing lights. You couldn't tell who won with the naked eye.
The winner of 4 races, Gary Scelzi, tops the points. Joe Amato, number 2. Joe would be closer to Scelzi. However, Joe had a couple of races where he went out round number 1, and that could be fatal to championship hopes.
Well, Gary Scelzi has just been sensational this year. He's made it to the semifinal round at least in every event this season. Bruce Sarver qualified number 9 of 4.88. He is a contender, but he's got his hands full. He knows he's in tough here against the season points leader.
Oh, but don't take Sarver lightly in the far lane. His crew chief, Lee Beard, one of the best. He made the finals in May at Englishtown, New Jersey, a former go-kart champion. He came to play. It is Sarver. It is Sarver. It is Scelzi from behind. Gary was a little late off the mark. Sarver had him covered into the last couple of feet. A 483 defeats a 487.
Boy, you were right. Bruce Sarver had it all for Gary Scelzi, and he came within an eyelash of providing the upset. Let's take a look from up above now. Watch this, just how tight it is. Sarver coming strong, Scelzi with a slight advantage. Here comes Sarver, and then a loss of a cylinder on the right bank cost him probably 700 horsepower.
Bruce Sarver got
their own this year. They haven't won since Atlanta.
And now can he face his points leader, Gary Scelzi, in his sponsor's hometown? Imagine the pressure.
Hey, we've already won this weekend the way I look at it. We got to race in our home, our second home. We've been with Budweiser 18 years, and they got to see the Bud King for the first time. So we're tickled to death. We'll deal with Scelzi the best we can.
And dealing with Scelzi right now is what the entire Top Fuel field is trying to do. Gary, a very slow reaction time at 5.0. Bernstein had the advantage, but Scelzi has the top-end horsepower. 4.78, equaling the best run of the day at 287 miles an hour.
And in the battle of the red and white cars, keep an eye on the right-hand side of the screen. Scelzi really spinning those tires, putting a lot of pressure on the power plant, but he needed every inch of it to knock off Bernstein and advance to his 7th final of the year.
Hey, Gary, that equals the best performance of the day, that 478.
Yeah, well, driver's been a little lazy here today. I got a headache, and I'll make a bunch of excuses, but no, the car's running good. We're doing okay, and for Santa Maria, we're rolling.
Well, he references Santa Maria, California, the home of Alan Johnson and the Johnson family racing team. As we look at our...
Let's check in with Frank Hulley in the Scelzi pit.
The silver material you see it in here, that's a result of a failed engine bearing. Now, what Gary Scelzi's been fighting this week
is the fact that as his car gets down the racetrack, it spins the tires near the finish line. That takes a load off the engine and makes cylinders misfire. When that happens, it makes the rest of them work even harder and also causes an unbalanced engine condition, which can beat the bearings out. If it's bad enough, it can actually make a connecting rod fail and put a hole in your block. In drag racing, a blockbuster is not a good thing.
Indeed. Frank Hawley.
Great movies not only have a big-name director and a big-name star, they also have a strong supporting cast. And the top fuel driver and fuel crew chief also have their strong supporting cast. When this top fuel dragster comes back after a round, it gets completely rebuilt. One member of the team will work on the cylinder heads, another will work on the bearings on the bottom end of the engine, and another will work on the clutch and the rear end of the car. When it goes back to the starting line for the next round of competition, it's virtually a brand new drivetrain in this car. Without that strong supporting cast, this car would never make the next round of competition.
And the final act of this production coming up in just a moment. And that brings us now to our top fuel final. Amato against Scelzi. They met in the semifinals at Columbus with Scelzi getting the win. Amato wants a payback.
Yeah, he's done a good job driving so far. Let's hope we can keep him in the final. But it's going to be tough. He's a good driver, and these young guys are tougher out there. They're all out trying to put Joe Amato away. But it gives you a little motivation. Scott Colletta out him one from the last race, and I out Gary one. Let's see if we can put it together.
And from half track on, Amato puts it together. A 473 defeats a 478. Joe begins the celebration before even unstrapping.
En route to his 40th career victory, his 4th this year, Joe Amato, closest to the camera, in a big-time showdown against Gary Scelzi, and this time the payback is on Amato's side.
In the inaugural Gateway Nationals, and Jimmy Prock and the whole team, I can't say enough. They did a tremendous job on my hot rod all day, and I just try to stay focused and concentrate. And last time he whipped my butt, but it's my turn today, and thank God for small favors.
Well, despite the victory for Amato, he still finds himself nearly 200 back of Scelzi.
And with all of his efforts today, he only eroded Scelzi's points lead by 19.
I tell you, there is something to be said, and the racers themselves will tell you. A new piece of pipe can make a lot of difference. The Team Winston car, Gary Scelzi, the driver for Alan Johnson. His opponent in qualifying is Jim Head at the wheel of the close call phone card machine. Team owner and crew chief Alan Johnson is cautiously confident racing here in this mile-high altitude.
You know, we've raced there twice with our fuel car, and both times we were in the final, runner-up, and we have a decent handle on what it takes to run there, but you never know going in there with a new car, different from last year. Things could change, but we're hoping that things will kind of be the same as they have been the last couple of years, and we get in the final again.
A year ago, the late Blaine Johnson established the track record here at Vandermeer Speedway on his first pass on a brand new race car when he ran 4.70 seconds. That mark has yet to be bettered, but it could happen now, as Gary Scelzi knows that this racetrack is at least good enough for a 478. Jim Head is 12th in qualifying, his previous best, a 498. I would guess, just from observation and experience, that they got into some tire shake. That vibration that really isn't the fault of those Goodyear tires. It is a combination of horsepower, clutch, traction available. It just manifests itself in a very severe vibration that ends up in the rear tires. There's more top fuel qualifying. You see them lined up, ready to...
Another guy that's got a brand new car here this weekend, and that's Team Winston driver Gary Scelzi. Now, Gary didn't have as good luck in qualifying. He only qualified 9th and faced off with Larry Dixon in round number 1. Dixon went up in smoke. Scelzi went right down Broadway into the second round, but he will give up lane choice to Corey. Well, that's the way it lines up here in top fuel as we get ready for round number 2. For the story in Funny Car, let's catch up with Bill Stevens.
Vandermeer Speedway, except maybe for the mile-high altitude. What a pair this one is, and could have a big bearing on the Winston points chase. It is Corey McClenathan up against the points leader, Gary Scelzi, in the far lane. We've talked a lot about this mile-high altitude. Earlier, Alan took a look at how they modify these cars. And they have yet to accomplish that goal, but they're getting close. This Corey Mack car has been dominant from his #1 qualifying spot at a 473. He defeated, as we saw earlier, Spike Gore in the first round. Larry Dixon was the victim of Gary Scelzi, who at his #9 qualifying spot started this day in the worst qualifying position that he's had all season long. And Scelzi goes up in smoke. Corey Mack to the finish line with another great 473 elapsed time at 310 miles an hour. Top speed of the meet thus far. This is the first time that Gary Scelzi has lost prior to the semifinals all season long. So the points leader now dropping out of contention after the second round. And the top qualifier, Corey Mack, continues his march to eliminations. Gary may have lost, but he had a handshake for Corey Mack.
Corey, you didn't tell this
Trying
new
for
car.
#2 here in this 1994 season. His opponent is Chuck Etchell. Winner once down in Richmond was Etchell's and the Kendall car. Now there was one great driving job by Whit Bazemore. If you follow drag racing extensively, you know exactly what Whit had to do, and here in replay we'll show it and explain it to you. When the car launched, it started to smoke the tires. He backed off the throttle, got on it, then had to feather his way through to a 546 win over Etchell's trailing 549. Well, next pair in round one was the Winston points leader, Gary Scelzi. He selected the lane nearest the camera. His opponent, the Team Geronimo entry, Bill Blomgren's car, driven by David Krupnik, who also is the tuner. And with the problems he had, he's got nobody but himself to blame. Gary Scelzi goes 468. Low ET of the round at over 309. Corey Mack and Gary Scelzi, Bill Stevens took a look at it.
Well, we just might have drag racing's latest hot new rivalry cooking up here in round 2 of Top Fuel. That's the Team Winston car driven by Gary Scelzi. He'll be taking on Corey McClenathan in the McDonald's car. Remember last week what happened in Denver? Corey Mack and Scelzi met up in round 2 out there, and Corey Mack won. It's the first time all season that Gary Scelzi has not advanced to at least the semifinal round. Corey, of course, went on to win that race. However, in the round that we just saw a little while ago here in Sonoma, Corey Mack ran a 484 at 298, and Gary Scelzi, he had low ET of the round, a 468 at 309. So if Corey Mack has a reason to dig a little deeper, it's in this round of Top Fuel.
Even with the round 2 loss a week ago, Gary Scelzi still has a commanding lead in the Winston points chase. Corey Mack moved up to the #3 spot, would like nothing better to have been able to put away Gary Scelzi in the second round here at the Autolite Nationals. The crowd was definitely on their feet for this one. It did not quite live up to its advanced billing as Scelzi up in smoke. McClenathan, the winner, at a 480. Who was the happiest guy on the grounds? Well, of course, Joe Amato.
Let it roll over the chute.
Look at that, over to offer his congratulations to Corey Mack. On the Winston points chase, Joe Amato races Corey McClenathan. Now let's go down to the pit area. Bill Stevens is caught up with Gary Scelzi.
That's a great set of wrenches you got there, Gary, but it didn't work for the second straight week. What's going on with this Corey Mack guy?
Boy, I don't know. Corey is doing an outstanding job. You know, him and Green as a crew chief. But, you know, Team Winston, second round is still not bad. We feel we've gotten a lot closer with Alan's new cylinder heads and new car. So we can't be too down. We'll get reloaded up and go to Seattle. Mount Rainier in the background, all the trees. Alan's had a lot of success there, and I've won an alcohol funny car. So it's pretty hard to keep Team Winston down. We're looking forward to it.
Corey just outran you. There was no problem with the car.
You know, when you're better than we are, you're better than we are. And today, Corey was better than us. And last weekend, he was better than us. So, hey, congratulations to those guys, and we'll see you next week.
There is an honest man, Mac.
Well, the question is, what's going to continue happening for the rest of the season? Gary Scelzi wishes he knew the answer. Probably the most famous Behind the CompuLink timing system used at all the NHRA national events around the country. And here is the first pair in Top Fuel Eliminator. You are looking at the points leader at the moment, the Team Winston machine, driven by Gary Scelzi, Alan Johnson, the car owner and crew chief. Here is the BME car, Bill Miller Engineering. A Chevrolet derivative power plant. And the Team Winston car with the more conventional TFX engine. Earlier, Alan had a look at some of the technical aspects of the Team Winston car, again in the clutch area.
Clutch maintenance on one of these nitro cars is an everyday affair. After every run, no matter what the car does, that clutch has got to come out. Everything gets resurfaced and new discs. Now, there are two kinds of flywheels that are in use in these cars. The 6-stand, which is the older design, has got 6 of the stands that the pressure plate bolts onto. Now, the 9-stand, which has been out most of the year, obviously has more stands. The guys that build this one will tell you it's more stable and more repeatable. As far as which one is actually better, Gary Scelzi's won 4 races, and his crew chief, Alan Johnson, likes the 6-stand. On the other hand, Joe Amato has won 4 races. His crew chief, Jimmy Prock, Jimmy likes the 9. So there really is no clear-cut winner in this deal.
Really, the winner is the guy that can tune whatever combination they're using the best, and Alan Johnson is certainly regarded as one of the premier crew chiefs this sport's ever seen. Bill Miller Engineering, manufacturer of a lot of the products utilized in both nitro, funny cars, and top fuelers. Runs his own car, got into some tire shake with his driver Tim Gibson. Look at Gary Scelzi driving through to a 4:72 elapsed time. Number 1 qualifier, Scelzi bursts to the top of the list at 302 miles an hour. Jim Head, after the first pair of qualifiers, has been bumped down to the number 2 spot. So Scelzi has got himself a fine 472. Starting line looks pretty good, Bill Stevens.
It certainly does, and I just spoke to Tony Schumacher a couple of minutes ago. He's about to make his pass. When he used to run a funny car, he had "Hi Mom" emblazoned on the parachutes. He can't do it on the dragster, but he had a piece of tape over his visor a little while ago that said "Hi Mom." That was to help to cut down the glare. They told him to take the tape off because of safety. It isn't on there anymore. Sorry, Mom. Down to Alan.
Gary Scelzi just taking his helmet off down here. He said the first thing all drivers say. What did it run? A 72, and you had to pedal it out in the middle, Gary.
Woo, man, it got the front end up in the air and started to shake the tires. And am I excited or what?
Well, now, I know you were kind of mad at yourself after the first run. You think you're out of Alan's doghouse now?
Well, I don't know. If we didn't hurt the motor, I think I'm okay.
They're number 1 right now, Mac.
Has ever done, and that is win the entire Western Swing in Top Fuel. Team Winston, his opponent, and Corey gets the win with his driving. The other guy to do that, Amato, in 1991.
I'm speechless.
Could this be any better than
Raceway? Well, here's the guy that's leading the points chase, and there is Alan Johnson, the crew chief. We're going to find out in just a few seconds whether they made the right guess, or Alan did at least, on the setup of that clutch. Gary has done a great job coming on to what is a difficult situation at best with the loss of Blaine Johnson at Indy last year. But Gary has done a remarkable job at the wheel of this car.
Yeah, he really has. I mean, to have someone come in and jump in a top fuel car that you know can be a world champion, you know, that's pretty good. And Gary's done a great job with that. Great job handling the fans and handling himself. And, you know, he's a definite true champion.
All right, let's go to Alan Reinhardt.
Does he have to buy a gift for Samantha once again, Mac?
You know, Gary Scelzi has led the point standing since the first race at Pomona, and as we approach the stretch run, he and his team want to maximize their efforts. They've been doing it.
Every race is important now. I mean, everyone counts. Every point is valuable. You want to get every qualifying point. You want to get everything you can get. We're going to go at it the same way I approached it going into the Winter Nationals. You know, everything we've got, we're throwing at it. Brainerd is a neat facility. It's beautiful with all the trees, great people, and it's a good racetrack. So hopefully everything's going to work out well, and, you know, who knows?
Well, we know by a 1/10 of a second, the number 1 qualifier. The Team Winston car driven by Gary Scelzi goes 4:65
at 310. That is somewhat a bittersweet smile on your face, Corey Mack.
Well, I told you before, they can do it. They're just one of those cars that's always at the top of the pack, and they showed us again.
All right, let's go to Bill Stevens.
Of the Cow team, the undercar driven by his wife Vicky. Her opponent was Gary Scelzi. Gary Scelzi had mechanical problems at the starting line, and the unbelievable occurred as Vicky Fanning pulled off the upset of drag racing. Not just this race, call 1997, call it the 1990s. Vicky Fanning, in only her third race, upset the Winston points leader. He blew a fuel line off.
Fuel line has done what no one has been able to do all year, put you out of competition in round one.
No, I'll tell you. I mean, it happens. What are you going to say? Team Winston's gone a lot of rounds without being beat first round, and I mean, what are you going to do? Go to Indy.
They'll still have the points lead no matter what happens today.
First time this season that Gary Scelzi has gone out in the first round.
In order to do that, she would have to take out Gary Scelzi, the #2 qualifier, the Winston points leader, and a big sentimental favorite to win it all here today. On board with the Texaco Haviland Parts America car, Shelley throws out a great 469, but not good enough to beat Gary Scelzi's quicker 463. All year long coming into Indy. Gary Scelzi and Team Winston on the far lane. Bob Vandergriff Jr. went to the finals here 2 years ago. Had the parachute come out early. That would not happen right now. And Alan Johnson literally watches his chances for an Indy title go up in smoke. Vandergriff gets the win, and Alan was not happy.
Alan, the U.S. Nationals comes to a close. What's your emotion like now?
Well, you know, I mean, we needed to win this race, and you know, we failed to do that, so we got to suck it up and go to the next one.
Keeping it off the wall, in fact, right there.
With Gary Scelzi out of the way, that would open the doors for this guy, Joe. He won at Heartland Park Topeka in the alcohol category in '94. Trying to stop Whit Basemore's trying to gain on the champ. Wilkerson smokes the tires, and Whit Bazemore runs 499, 306.85 miles an hour to get the win and close within striking distance of the formerly invincible, untouchable John Force. Wilkerson smoked the
On to Reading, one of the fastest tracks on the planet for these cars. It's a motto. It's Scelzi. Joe struggled mightily in qualifying, and that's how they ended up racing in round #1. And Joe sent the Winston boys home. Now he can make up some ground.
Scelzi gone, round 1. 2 out of the last 3 races. Amato would then take on Corey Mack.
5 months ago, while racing at the first of 2 1997 events in Dallas, Gary Scelzi became a father, and the Winston points leader probably expected to experience some degree of insomnia because of baby Dominic. Little did Gary know that his sleepless nights wouldn't come from the tiny tot, but from the red-hot McDonald's racing team led by crew chief Mike Green that has propelled Corey McClenathan to 5 wins in the last 6 races and into a close second place in the NH3 Winston point standings. It's said the pressure is always on the hunted, not the hunter. And I believe that's true. Corey Mack and his pit basking in the national media attention's incredible summer 5 out of 6 race wins. Over here in Gary Scelzi's pit, the Winston points leader, the pressure is on. Alan Johnson, car owner, says this is the worst 3 months in his racing life, and they know they've got to defend here. They qualified #2, brilliant, but they can't shake Corey Mack. He qualified #3, and they're on the same side of the ladder. They both hope the other is gone by the semis, but if not, they'll face each other head-to-head, a 40-point swing.
Long to watch Gary Scelzi. By the way, last time Corey went out round 1 right here at the spring race. Rhonda Hartman on the far lane, hoping to duplicate what Vicky Fanning did to Scelzi at Brainerd. That is beat him. Oh, look at Rhonda Hartman right there with a note. 473. Gary Scelzi gets the win. Rhonda with a game effort at 477, but she's out of here.
Whoa, Gary Scelzi, you got to watch out for the ladies these days. That was close.
She almost took the wind out of our sails in a hurry, boy. I got in trouble and had to pedal it. And Thank God, that's 20 points that we need. Boy, Team Winston's going to second round, and thank God.
With Corey out, that's really a 40-point swing.
Well, I don't want to say anything yet. I'm walking on ice, believe me.
Hey, not bad. Scelzi, a win into the next round and 4 cliches in one interview. Fine, I saw that hand signal. It'll be Gary Scelzi and Team Winston. Baby Dominic's picture inside riding on board. And Bob, I'm really hurting from that accident earlier the other day. Vandergrift and the jersey's active wear. Vandergrift would give him a shot, but not for long. Gary Scelzi gets the win, but all was not perfect for Team Winston, and Gary knows he's got to step it up, right, Gary?
I was trying to spin the tire again, but I wasn't going to pedal it. I figured, you know, Bob, they run good and hard over there, and he's a friend of mine, and he's taking out the bigs all the time this year, and we got fortunate. Team Winston's going to semis. Corey, I know how you feel, believe me. That's how I felt for the last 6 races.
And baby Dominic, Daddy at last has the consistency he needs.
Everybody together now. Here comes Shelly. Tough for either Gary Scelzi or Kenny Bernstein to get the win. It's King Kenny in the near lane. Went to the finals at Maple Grove 2 weeks ago. There is Lee Beard. Still haven't found those red pants. On the far side, Scelzi and Team Winston wants to put some more distance between himself and Corey Mack. Oh, baby, what a top fuel race. It is Bernstein, 468 at 309, 471 for Gary Scelzi. Let's go into the pit area. Dave Reeve.
Gary, in our business, we call this the bye-bye interview. Fortunately, that's exactly what it is.
You know, Steve, I can't be too unhappy. Team Winston got back to the semis. It's been a long time. We think we're getting a little bit better handle on it. You know, we missed a little bit there, but hey, at least Corey didn't make it to the finals. But, you know, Joe's still out there, too. We keep saying it's a 2-race battle. Joe Amato's got a big part to say in this whole thing.
See you next weekend in Memphis.
You bet we will.
You're riding on board with Shelly Anderson. She was a big winner in round number 1 with her Parts America Haviland car. Her victim there was Joe Amato. The opponent here in round number 2, as she tries to get herself positioned on the racetrack, is Gary Scelzi. Shelly defeated Joe Amato in the first round, while Scelzi topped Terry Mullins. Gary qualified second at a 4.60 second elapsed time, just thousandths behind Corey McLenithan. Scelzi with a big lead in the Winston points chase. Corey Mack already out of competition. Scelzi could add to his total should he prevail here. Well, that onboard camera shot told the whole story. Gary Scelzi just driving away. 462 at 314 miles an hour. A troubled Shelly Anderson falling back at a 484. Here are the pairings for the Final Four. It'll be Mike Dunn picking his lane over Jim Head. Gary Scelzi over Larry Dixon. Alan Johnson, of course, the crew chief on the Gary Scelzi-driven Team Winston car, helping out with the Jim Head tune-up. The opponent here for Scelzi, the red-hot Larry Dixon driving Don Prudhomme's Miller Lite machine. Dixon's 471 in round 2 did not give him the lane choice here. In fact, he's 0.09 of a second slower, based on paper times at least, than his opponent Scelzi. That's Alan Johnson, the brain trust that operates this Team Winston machine. Has kept Gary Scelzi in the lead in the Winston points chase since the first race of the season. Well, they had a very rare occurrence of some engine problems, and Larry Dixon duplicated his previous round 471, this time at 309 miles an hour. So Larry Dixon will be the opponent for Jim Head in the final round. Let's look at this one again. Scelzi had the advantage at the starting line. He had the lead when it passed our camera. Then at the 8th mile, he continued to hold on to a lead until at 1,000 foot, the engine problems began. That was the margin of victory at the finish line, and that put this man into the finals against Larry Dixon. Next year will be Dale Armstrong. He'll be the wrench on the Larry Dixon car. Gary Scelzi backpedaling his way across the finish. Tough break for him. Here again, Allen.
I know you wanted to win this race, Gary, but that smile is because your points lead is bigger than when you got here.
Yes, it is. You know, I tell you what, we gave it a heck of a shot. It started to get in trouble. I had to pedal it, and those things happen. Larry and them, they've been running really good this weekend, and Team Winston's not done yet.
Gary Scelzi and Team Winston. Agnes and Everett Johnson, by the way, celebrated their 43rd wedding anniversary here this weekend. Great folks. Then went to the Draw Auction and Fashion Show last night, participated and helped out that great cause in their battle to help many of the injured racers out there. It was a great night last night. Doug Herbert, a trivia question, the second man to run over 300 miles an hour on the NHRA Winston Tour. Bernstein was first. This guy did it second. Hasn't won since Columbus back in 1993. Qualified in the 14 slot at 483. Scelzi at 462. Wants to go rounds and wants to wrap this puppy up as soon as he can. Out of the gate, Scelzi with a good 470, 308 miles an hour. Not awe-inspiring, but Team Red's going into round number 2. And the way the points stack up in this category, Gary Scelzi and Team Winston 135 up. Basically, you can get 20 points per round. We've got 12 rounds to go. You do the math. It's not over yet. Gary Scelzi in the lead, but Corey McClenathan is not about to give up until the final race of the season. There is the snap-on car. Second man over 300. Doug Herbert, former IHRA champ, stepping up, playing hardball with the big boys. Gary Scelzi, Team Winston, wants to drive away from Corey Mack. Well, he drives away from Doug Herbert, gets the win, 470, but it wasn't an awe-inspiring run for Team Winston.
Gary Scelzi, that 472 was not indicative of what this car could have done on that lap.
No, you know, Steve, I had to pedal a Team Winston top fuel car, and you know, it's not getting any easier. Congratulations, Doug. Congratulations to Doug. That's where I'm at right now.
He can go home. You just have to stay.
I know it. You know, the points race is getting so tight and everything's so rough, you know. We'll go put some more Synergen oil in it and get out of here.
Okay, buddy.
Hey, Gary, a mind is a terrible thing to waste. Over there in the pit area, standing by with his closest competitor, Dave Reed, takes a look at Big Red, Corey Mack in the McDonald's car. The Royal Purple Machine, that's the kid from Oregon, 2-1 in Englishtown. Mike Klober, the crew chief. Team Winston, Gary Scelzi wants to keep pace, wants to put a little distance between himself and Corey Mack in the battle for the Winston Championship. Oh, baby. Kristen Powell all over the place. Scelzi gets the win, 471, 315 miles an hour. He won it by a bunch. Let's take a look at that again. A nasty run for Kristen Powell, but she drives like a veteran and gets the car straight, brings it to a halt. How about that, Kristen Powell? David Reeves down with a couple of former Winston champs, talking about one of them in round 2. Joe Amato and Gary Scelzi, as good as it gets. Amato has had a very good season, except for some of those nasty first-round losses. 6th up. Could he gain a little measure of revenge against Team Winston here in the semifinals? Could he run another 320? Could he stop Gary Scelzi's title hopes? Yep. All of the above. 464, 312 miles an hour. He wins it by 2 thousandths of a second. Corey Mack only 93 points out. You can get 20 points a round. We got 8 rounds to go. Couple of bonuses in that MBNA World Record Club. This baby ain't over. The Mopar High Performance.
Everybody at home, I'm fine. We just put a little excitement in this thing, but we're going to be okay. We're going to round 2.
And you will have lane choice when you get there.
I love it.
Now for the bizarre part.
Here's the way they stand, about 20 points per round. Corey at this juncture actually 95 points down. We need to go in the qualifying spot, so Scelzi definitely has things pretty much under control. Racing so great, runs like that. Bob Vandergriff Jr., the Jersey's activewear car. It has been a roller coaster ride for this team. Their best showing of the year right here at the spring race. They went to the finals. They got the tough customer, Gary Scelzi, and Team Winston in the other lane. Scelzi with that 462 in the opener that we showed you. He has been the quickest car of elimination so far. Career best in qualifying, and Team Winston under the watchful eye of Alan Johnson, showing no signs of going quietly, if indeed Corey Mack is going to run him down for the title. Vandergrift. Little tire smoke, wheel stand, and a lot of Team Winston. Scelzi 473, 311 miles an hour. Surprisingly mild runs for both Corey and Scelzi. These weather conditions, I was expecting some 60s and maybe even quicker. Now watch Vandergrift in the near lane. Haze the tires, gets the front end up in the air. That is not good if you're running a top fuel car. We'll take a look at the semifinals. Dixon and Corey Mack, lane choice to the McDonald's car. And it's going to be Gary Scelzi going off against Kenny Bernstein. Team Winston will pick their side of the racetrack. We got the funny car. Welcome back, everybody. Houston Raceway Park. Rain delayed. Matco Tools Super National still a bit on the cool side. You can see Alan Johnson with a big jacket on. Lee Beard, crew chief for the Bud King, with the same wearing apparel. It seems to be the uniform of the day. Scelzi gets the win by a car length at 470. Kenny and the Bud King goes 474, and frankly, I am stunned that the top fuel cars have not been down in the 60s. Maybe the reason why will be evident as you watch Scelzi on the left side of the screen. He is all over his side of the racetrack. Bernstein a little quicker out of the gate. Scelzi quicker on the track, and he has gone to the finals.
There are now 5 runs left in this entire season, and you're going to the final here, and that was a good drag race.
Steve, let me tell you, I had to pedal it. It was all over the racetrack. Got it by the wall. I got it away from the wall, and Team Winston's going to the finals. I mean, what am I going to say?
You might just meet Corey Mack there.
You know what? That's okay, too. Bring him on, because we're ready.
470.
Slimmest of margin has lane choice over Gary Scelzi. Steve? The inaugural running of the Matco Tools Super Nationals on TNN has been brought to you by Mopar, Chrysler Corporation Parts, the Chrysler, Plymouth, Dodge, Jeep, and Eagle dealers who sell and install them. Top Fuel finals on the line. Larry Dixon smokes the tires, and Team Winston explodes. Here comes Dixon, ran out of racetrack. Gary Scelzi with his hands full gets the win and clinches the 97 Winston Top Fuel Championship in a little more spectacular fashion than his first win at the opening race back in Pomona, California. What a way to wrap up the inaugural Matco Tools Super Nationals, winning it on fire. Great driving job by Gary Scelzi, who's been doing this for the better part of the last 10 years, the first time in Top Fuel.
You are the Winston champion, buddy.
Oh, man. What a day. I can't believe this. My wife's on the phone. Sorry about the car, Alan, but we got another one. You know, I just didn't want to give up. The thing smoked the tire, got out of the groove, and it was dead. And I just stabbed it anyway. It didn't matter.
We could feel the presence of Blaine Johnson here today. I could.
Let me tell you something. The round before this, when I thought I pedaled it, I didn't. So that wasn't me. That was the big guy up there. Are you sure we won the championship?
Positive.
All right!
Yeah, buddy. Oh, my. What an emotional time for that team. They've wrapped it up. Corey, with a valiant effort, will wind up second, and the rest of the top 5 in the Winston points chases. Well, it was a day late, but nothing short in the excitement department from the Matco Tools Super Nationals for...
In the Alan Johnson-tuned Winston entry, Gary Scelzi sits in the second spot with 3,305 points. Having a phenomenal season, this is his first appearance in the Bud Top Fuel Classic.
I'm so excited about being in the Budweiser Classic because it's a first for me, just like a lot of things have been this year. And Alan Johnson's very consistent in qualifying, and you know, it's great to be number 2, but everyone that's in this show is a tough one. So there's no easy ones with a quick 8 that are going to be in it.
And Gary Scelzi, that's right. Scelzi came to this event with a 135-point lead and needed only to sit in the race car and make one qualifying pass to gain his Winston championship. And you think he might be kind of idling his way down the racetrack to clinch it, but no, just like the spirit of Blaine Johnson, foot to the floor, flame shoot, a very spirited run. Completed the Johnson family's championship flight, which fell short just 1 year ago.
He's the #2 qualifier coming into today at 464, 311 miles per hour. After the qualifying shot came the championship showers. Everett led the chase, spraying champagne all over Gary Scelzi in celebration of the Johnson family's first Winston Top Fuel Championship. Coming into today, well, they've got $200,000 in the bank, and you think they might rest on their laurels. Absolutely not. There's another $250,000 on the line, $100,000 of it starting right here at the Top Fuel Classic. So maybe they'll have a $100,000 check to sit next to this Winston Top Fuel champagne that was left over. Bob.
Should be sleeper in the field. The Jersey's activewear, Bob Vandergrift Jr., 2 #1 qualifying shots this year, and he will take on Team Winston, the 1997 NHRA Winston Top Fuel champions. They qualified #1 6 times. This year, Vandergrift hoping to join Shelly Anderson and Joe Amato as winners of the Classic in their rookie season. Got to ask you, Dave Reef, about that last pair. A lot of tire smoke. Was that more the cars or the track, do you think?
I guarantee it was more cars. They got just too much horsepower in these things. And kind of tell you a little bit about that. Bob Vandergrift has had a struggle getting down the racetrack here yesterday, smoking the tires really bad. He is 5th at a 475. But this could be a little bit of a tough race for him to do as he's getting back with Gary Scelzi, who the pressure's over now. He's just ready to have some fun, and that's when you can do the most damage.
Gary Scelzi, the Winston Top Fuel champ. Don't forget, coming up Friday on TNN Motorsports, the night that every racer wants to hear his name called out. It'll be the NHRA Winston Awards banquet right here on Friday on TNN. More smoke from both of them. Scelzi recovers, and it looks just like his first win at the first race here at Pomona earlier this season when he beat Joe Amato in a tire smoker that looked just like that. 5.80 Scelzi, 277 as he stabbed it and got by Vandergrift. 904 for Bob Vandergrift, 93 miles an hour if you're scoring at home. And move, Big Red, Team Winston, Gary Scelzi into the finals. Semifinals, that'd be. Vandergrift doesn't go 60 feet and the tires are up in smoke. Scelzi doesn't go a whole lot further before blowing the hides. I mean to tell you, you could lay that run right over top of the finals from the Winter Nationals here, and it would look just like this. Team Winston gets the win. It wasn't pretty, but that guy is going to the semis here at the Top Fuel Classic.
Who would have thought Mike Dunn with a 570 would get lane choice, but he does. One thing, this crowd is behind you. Every time you go up for those grandstands, you get a standing ovation.
You know, that's what makes it so exciting, other than smoking the tires 4 times when you're pedaling it. But, you know, Steve, I'm just so grateful, and God, we're in the second round, and we might get some of that Budweiser money yet.
Woohoo. So congrats, as Gary Scelzi is just kind of wowing the crowd out here at Pomona as he takes Team Winston in, and they hope to repeat. It hasn't been done very often. Joe Amato's the only guy to back up a win at the Classic and come back and win again on Sunday. There is Gary Scelzi up on the far side, and Team Mopar, Mike Dunn, and our onboard camera wizards have done some of their usual great stuff here again on Mike Dunn's Mopar car. You should see some neat shots. He would like to see a neat shot of the Team Mopar Winnebago entry out in front of Gary Scelzi. Anybody make any big changes down there that you know of, Dave?
Actually, this is the tale of 2 crew chiefs. Alan Johnson felt his car was underpowered. They were slipping the tire because they were lurching. That's why it slipped in round #1. Ken Vinny, they think they overpowered the car, so they've tuned down the clutch attempts to get down the racetrack right now.
You got a quick glimpse of one of those onboard camera shots. Winner goes to the finals. It will not be Mike Dunn, and Gary Scelzi trying to punctuate a sensational rookie season. Goes 463.2 at 316 miles an hour. And Gary Scelzi, who has had great success at this racetrack going back to the old alcohol and dragster and funny car days back in the mid-1980s, goes to the finals here in his first ever Budweiser Top Fuel Classic. Too much power for the Mopar car. Heck, we never even got to use one of those onboard camera shots. Look at Team Winston flex their muscles as they go across the finish line. We did get to use it. Look at this. On board with Mike Dunn, and man, does that Team Winston car disappear. Look like the space shuttle driving away from him down to the far end of the racetrack. Winner, winner, winner is with Steve Evans.
He is indeed. Gary Scelzi, low elapsed time so far of the Bud Classic. At 4:63, you were ready to pedal, weren't you?
Boy, let me tell you, that guy over there is the best peddler in the business. And if it was going to come down to that, I probably would have been in trouble.
4:63, one more of those, and you might be $100,000 richer, man.
I can't spell $100,000, but it sure be nice to have it. Team Winston's going to the final, and what a great year it's been.
Gary Scelzi.
And we'll have fun. Oh, I'm sorry. Got me singing that Beach Boys song. We got the other set for the final round of the 1997 Budweiser Top Fuel Classic. It will be the Miller Lite car from Don the Snake Prudhomme with the Whiz Kid. Larry Dixon at the wheel, taking on the new 1997 Winston Top Fuel champion, Gary Scelzi. Steve Evans, I said at the top of the show, I think of Southern California. I think of you and Top Fuel. So who better to tell us who's going to win this thing?
I wouldn't even hazard a guess. How many times at Pomona have we seen the temperature fall 15 degrees between the semis and the finals? You can throw all of that out of the window. They may both smoke the tires. They may both hook one or the other. But I'll tell you one thing. Gary Scelzi may want to sharpen up his reaction time because Larry Dixon has left on both his opponents so far today in the Classic.
Who do you like, Dave Reeve?
Well, the concern for Wes Cerny and Larry Dixon not only is the track temperature, but just shortly before they push these cars into the staging lights, we had an oil down. So they're facing kind of a double whammy, so to speak. And that's like Steve said, remember the race we had here last spring? Pedal Fest, back up and down the racetrack. It was 74 degrees up here 15 minutes ago. Who knows how far it's fallen off since then.
Larry Dixon right now, the hottest guy in Top Fuel Eliminator. The Miller Lite car will take out Team Winston. That's the way I see it right here. Then again, maybe Team Winston will win it. Gary Scelzi with a brilliant 460. 313 miles an hour. 473, Larry Dixon at 298 miles an hour. This team can do nothing wrong. The Winston champs for 1997. The Budweiser Top Fuel Classic champions for 1997. It was a great race till the 8th mile mark, and then Team Winston, Alan Johnson, Gary Scelzi get the win. And you know, somewhere up there, Lane Johnson's looking down and saying, way to go, boys. By a car length, Gary Scelzi is your Budweiser Top Fuel Classic champion. David?
And Alan Johnson is the Top Fuel Classic crew chief for the race. Great job out here. Could you believe the kind of season you guys are having?
Well, I tell you, air got good, the track got cold. We just left the tune-up the same, and it picked up 100 grand. Love it.
460, that's pretty stout. Steve Evans with another happy driver.
I tell you what, $100,000 will buy a lot of golf balls for next Wednesday's Blaine Johnson Memorial Golf Tournament in Santa Maria. A 460. You're a rich man.
You know what, Steve? If I play in that golf tournament, we're going to need $100,000 worth of golf balls. But you know what? I got to thank Winston. I got to thank NGK. I got to thank Synergy. And I got to thank all the people that helped us. You know, Mac Tools. It's been so wonderful. Alan Johnson. I was so nervous up there. I don't know if he backed the mags off, put more power. I don't know what he did. I don't care. My knees were shaking up there. I said, $100,000, it's not that big of a deal. We won the championship. The hell it wasn't. It was a hell of a deal. Santa Maria, Fresno, we love you. And 100 grand, Richard. Thank you, Budweiser.
Say hi to Mike LeBrod, Karen Holschlag from Anheuser-Busch. I'll tell you what, he's pumped, isn't he? Bob?
Hey, Steve, it's not the $100,000 that makes Gary Scelzi a rich man. It's the character that he brought to this team. And what a marvelous job he has done with Team Winston here in 1997. He is our Mopar high performer and your Budweiser Top Fuel Classic winner with a 460, Gary Scelzi. And by the way, he is also the Winston champion. Bobby Maston, Mark J. Reynolds right down there. A great finishing run for Gary Scelzi. If you take a look at some of the past winners that have picked up the big bucks here in the Budweiser Top Fuel Classic, it looks like a who's who of drag racing. Amato, Garlitz, Bernstein, Dixon, Shelley Anderson, and the latest winner, Gary Scelzi, punctuating what has been just a dream season for Alan Johnson and the family in 1997. Don't forget, we're going to be right back here tomorrow. Another big day of drag racing on TNN. First round coverage of the Winston Finals.
Some call it destiny, others call it fate. But for Gary Scelzi, Alan Johnson, and the entire Winston team, the Top Fuel Championship was a far cry from a gimme. With dogged determination, single-minded purpose, the team has realized its dream. And for the second time in his career, Corey McClanahan's late season shot fell short. After 22 grueling races, Team Winston accomplished what they set out to do, winning the 1997 Top Fuel Championship. Live from the 33rd Annual Winston Finals is NHRA Today. Hey, calling the signals against Gary Scelzi and Team Winston. Crowd still settling back after that Tim Gibson win over Larry Dixon. There have been some stunning upsets here historically. Term Gunn beat Mark Oswald in the Top Fuel run here in 1984. You might not realize what an upset that was until you check the record book and realize Oswald won the championship that year. Term Gunn hadn't won a whole lot of anything. So that might give a little hope to Doug Herbert because they got to take on Team Winston. But after what we saw here yesterday, there might not be a person on the planet that doesn't think that Gary Scelzi is going to win this race here today. Now this team could double up and join Joe Amato as the only guys to do it, winning the Classic Saturday and the Winston Finals on Sunday. Doug Herbert, give him a ride. He qualified for the 484. Doug's going to give him a ride, but come up short. Scelzi, both out of 4:66. There are the numbers at the top of the screen. He won it by almost 0.2 of a second. He was quicker off the line, quicker at every increment down the racetrack. Little thumbs up from the Winston champ, the Budweiser Top Fuel Classic champ, and the guy that might be a whole lot richer before we sign off later on this afternoon. 466 at 312, and Doug Herbert at 483 in the Snap-on Tools machine. Gone in round number one. Well, if you're sitting there saying, well, Bob, I don't think there's anybody left in Fresno. They're all in this grandstand cheering you on.
You know what? 170 rounds, and I still get the worst first-round butterflies. Doug Herbert, you know, the Snap-on car is a heck of a competitor, but Team Winston, Alan Johnson, boy, what a weekend we've had. And first rounds really are terrible. Let me tell you, it's hard on a driver.
Hard on every one of you. Next matchup for Scelzi, the guy he is replacing as Winston champ. It's Bernstein and Scelzi in round. This is Doug Herbert. He's got the Snap-on Tools car. He's got Dick LaHaye. That could prove to be a rather tough combo next year. Well, it did prove to be really tough here this year. Gary Scelzi, Team Winston, won yesterday, won today, and he's going into round number 2 with a 466. 312. Team Winston is very tough. It would be Kenny Bernstein and the Budweiser King with Lee Beard now starting to really settle in. The 96 champ against the 97 champ. Bernstein would love to flex his muscles against Team Winston right here in Pomona. He would do it until the car breaks at the top end of the quarter mile. The Bud King's out of here, and Scelzi just keeps on keeping on.
You are getting ever closer to a dump truck load of money, my friend.
Yeah, but it's still two rounds away, and this competition's way too tough. I don't know who we got next round, but Team Winston, Mac Tool is going to the next round, and Alan Johnson, he's my man.
I think there's a good chance you'll have lane choice with a 461.
Is that right? Right on. I knew it felt good, but that was really good.
Excellent.
Right on. I can't believe he said that. Laura Bird's over in the pit area to introduce us to a new guy. Finals for the second year in a row. Is it destiny or fate, as Steve mentioned at the very top of the broadcast? Is Team Winston going to win this whole shooting match? Or will the young kid who won at Englishtown punch out Gary Scelzi right here in the semifinal? The Reebok driver on the far lane. Great move out of the gate. Here comes Big Red. Say goodnight, Kristen. 476, 303. Wasn't awe-inspiring, but Team Winston's in the finals. Let's go to David Reed. Dave?
Down here in the Winston pits, I am with Gary Scelzi, who I guess doesn't have quite so much the fun look on anymore. This is the most focused I have seen him in a long, long time as you get set for, well, to wrap the year up in a great, great way.
You know, this last race is really important to me and Alan and Team Winston and the guys. They've worked their tails off, and we locked the championship up. We won the Bud Shootout, and what a clean sweep it'd be if we can just happen to get by Joe.
How much is that tire smoking battle from earlier this year on your mind?
You know, it's getting cool, but I think Alan's going to be okay, and I'm sure Jimmy's going to be okay this time. I think the fans are going to see a heck of a race, and I know half the population of Fresno and Santa Maria are here in the pits.
Let's go find out what Joe Amato thinks about this upcoming final, Steve.
Man, sounds like you were sitting right there in the driver's compartment of one of these two. Well, it's going to be the finals. It's Joe Amato, 5-time champion, the Action Collectibles car, and the defending champion here against Gary Scelzi. Gary Scelzi won this race in 1987 in Top Alcohol Dragster and announced that he was retiring. Now he's about to cap a storybook year with Team Winston. Steve, does it get any better than this?
Oh, baby, no, it doesn't. Scelzi's first words with his helmet still on yesterday when he won the $100,000 from Budweiser was, little Dominic's going to college. Little Dominic is only about 8 months old. I think there's going to be some very nice prep schools on the way to Harvard if he wins here right now. It's about an $80,000 swing for Scelzi.
Spring, the big tire smoking battle. Could possibly see one of these again today, but as you mentioned, a storybook here that has one page left to be told. Gary Scelzi will win this race. After all, destiny is on his side.
Gary Scelzi smokes the tires, and Joe Amato, ladies and gentlemen, check out those numbers. The quickest run ever at 4:55, 320 miles an hour as Joe Amato gets the win. Gary Scelzi tried desperately. Problems right out of the gate. Blowing sparks and blowing smoke. And look at this. Joe Amato goes right down Broadway for the quickest run ever at 4:55, 320 miles an hour. Even if Scelzi hadn't smoked the tires, Joe would have been awfully hard to beat. Jimmy Prock looking at the numbers right now and calling down to his guy at the end and saying, what a job. Steve?
Joe Amato, did they tell you on the radio